I love Rodent.
I'm just posting on the Discord. I've been getting asked by Discord to verify my age, and I'm not happy about it. We're also setting up a new Discord that's going to be a little more...
You say this all the time.
No.
Don't tell me about shit until it's done. I don't want to hear about future shit.
We're literally doing it at the moment.
I don't care. Tell me when it's done.
And then we're going to promote...
I'm not listening. Yet you continue talking.
You need to share your screen.
It's doing the thing where it rips my panels all over.
Let's do this video.
You don't turn it on. Or
You can have a few runs, but if you keep being so noisy, you're gonna have to switch it
you don't
with,
turn it on.
with
Oracle,
the big man.
So these are pretty long videos, so I might speed them up a little bit. And if you want to move on, just let me know, because they are long videos.
I put a lot of good stuff in there.
In yours? Because I saved a lot of fucking bangers.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, there's a lot of good stuff.
I'll have a look.
I need 2 minutes to take a bath, and we'll turn it off.
From the barrel of muskets to flowers of fire in the
you
sky.
don't really turn it off.
This is Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle and new arbiter of the US TikTok algorithm, speaking at an internal meeting about his vision of a hyper-surveilled future.
But we transmit the video back to headquarters. So headquarters and AI is constantly monitoring the video. The police will be on their best behavior. Citizens will be on their best behavior. Because we're constantly recording everything that's going on.
I want to start here because this
is that the McAfee guy?
Where the size of your armies fail,
I think it might have been.
use your head and gilded
speech represents an important shift in Silicon Valley's culture. Gone are the days of the Valley's veneer of idealistic futurism, where technology was supposed to level the playing field and make us more connected than ever. Big tech doesn't need to sell us on this egalitarian vision anymore. Their power is so entrenched, their widespread platform so utterly monopolized, that they simply rely on the assumption that we are powerless to stop them. What we have instead is a technological playground catered to the whims of the ultra-wealthy. They throw billions behind designer gene-edited babies and cryogenic freezing and consciousness uploading and sycophantic slot machines. They indulge in sci-fi fantasies of space colonizations and metaverses.
Look, how else is Elon Musk going to get told
repurposing
he's
dystopian
loved?
warnings as aspirational goals. Their most visionary ambition is that of artificial techno-utopia, in which we merge with computers and become superior post-humans, our digital hands running through the digital grass as we inhale the digital simulation of pine forests, scents and sights that have been fully subsumed by the capitalist religion of infinite growth. Their utopian fantasy is one of division, where unwanted populations are kept at bay through omniscient surveillance and AI systems that allow them to live unbothered by the plebeian needs of the less than human poor. The likes of Ellison and Flock Safety CEO Garrett Langley make big claims about the eradication of all crime through constant surveillance, but this is not what they are selling. They are selling control. They are selling a technological non-solution of symptoms, leaving the unsexy root causes of poverty, addiction, and homelessness to fester. Because if these causes were to be addressed, there would be no money to be made off fear and anxiety. We are trending closer to the world of Minority Report, where cops exploit the slave labor of gifted precogs that can sense murders before they happen, resulting in a system of mass incarceration of people who were merely going to commit a crime. The ultra-surveilled future that these people want to create is not so much the future as it is a daily reality for millions of people all across the world, from Palestine, to refugee camps, to prisons, to the US-Mexico border. In places like these, we see that technology is not used to break down the walls of inequality, as it once was supposed to do, but rather to erect new ones. And while surveillance capitalism will not eradicate crime, it will produce mountains of data. This is where artificial intelligence comes in. These criticisms that AI is being used to exploit and deepen inequality are not considered real risks by the AI community writ large.
It's taking
Chatbots
forever
murder and sexualization of children
to fucking
is deemed
load.
acceptable as collateral damage when future utopia is at stake. AI-powered racism is the price we must pay to live in a safe society. Anyone who challenges this vision is a closed-minded Luddite, resisting the inevitable march of progress.
If you're not using this technology, you're not going to be relevant compared to your peer groups and your competitors and the people who want to be successful.
Oh,
Adopt
you're
it
not
and
going to
adopt it
be
fast.
cool.
The
unless
inevitability
you use
narrative-
our
You
tech.
know what's funny though? People are rejecting them. So like, they're literally wrong. People are going back to older tech because it's simpler and doesn't have surveillance. Have you seen this? So Gen Z is like recovering old tech and using that shit. I'm so happy about it.
Obfuscates the fact that
Well,
all
that's,
Like, death to all
According
smart
to,
machines.
according to Anthony Elbows, that's what the bill's going to do for them.
Sure it will.
He said it.
Uh-huh.
That's what he said, is that old
All these
people
technologies-
or those kids are going to have to remember phone numbers.
What's up? Which is objectively stupid because phones have always been able to hold phone numbers. As long as I can remember. You're gonna have to remember phone numbers. It's just another Australian law that's gonna claim responsibility for something that was already happening. And then be like, oh, you should follow our lead. Our feckless, useless law.
resulted from decisions. Decisions by out-of-touch, overwhelmingly white male billionaires who refuse any and all ways of seeing the world that challenges their ability to increase their already obscene wealth.
Why
It's
is
hard
this
not to ask
taking
the
so
question
fucking
if
long?
technology has gone too far down this path, if we would not be better off blowing it all up and starting over. In other words, should we destroy the machines?
Yes.
In this video, we'll explore this question, and spoiler, it's not so straightforward to answer,
Yes,
as
it
you can
is.
see by the length of this video. We'll start with the leading edge of surveillance technology in the apartheid state of Israel, and how it has tested its various technologies of control on Palestinians before exporting them all over the world. Next, we'll look at the Luddite uprising of the 1800s, clarifying the misconceptions about who the Luddites actually were and what they wanted. I interviewed tech journalist Brian Merchant for this part, who wrote a book on the Luddites and helped me answer some of these questions. We'll dive into the origins of Dune's Butlerian Jihad and what we can learn from it. Finally, I'll present my thoughts as to what we can do to resist the big tech agenda. I hope you'll stick around until the end
I'm so
because
far
despite the gravity
behind
of what I'm
because of that
covering, I
fucking
see a glimmer of
pointless
hope on
war
the
with a
horizon.
city
So
state
without
that
further
I
ado,
misclicked
strap
on.
in, grab a beverage, got my coffee here because it's morning time. And let's answer the question of... This video is available ad-free on Patreon. There's
Great.
no team behind the story.
My
to
game
tell.
still hasn't
It's just
loaded.
me. Long video essays like this take well over 100
Sometimes it
hours
takes
to
a minute.
research, write, produce, and edit. So if
It's
you want
never
to support
taken this
independent
long.
media and allow me to sustain the time and
Says
care
it's
that I put
waiting
into
on
each
you,
video,
so
please
sometimes
Yeah,
it's
no
consider
shit. I'm
subscribing
still in the load
As a
screen.
token
It's
of
not even giving you the
appreciation, while
option
supplies
to
last,
go into the
Every
game.
person who signs up will get a free custom bookmark. That is, if you live in...
Yeah, that's what loading means.
Far before October 7th, 2023, Israel has been light years ahead of the world in their sophisticated system of control through surveillance, technology that has been paramount in enforcing what is often described as a frictionless occupation. Israel's goal in both the West Bank and in Gaza is to eliminate as much
Man, I can't imagine why China is one of Israel's biggest trade partners. I wonder if it's got anything to do with surveillance tech.
interaction as possible between Palestinians and the Israeli military.
The whole automation aims to eliminate the direct interaction between the Israeli as occupying force and Palestinians as occupied people, and to make the main interaction between Palestinians and the technology. So it could create this idea that our problem is not with the occupier, but rather with the technology.
They achieve this through a dizzying array of physical infrastructure, omnipresent security cameras and drones.
This was recorded just a few miles south of Hebron.
AI-powered facial recognition and data analysis, and custom-built software. Border smart walls are equipped with surveillance towers, underground motion sensing, infrared cameras, night vision cameras, and more. These walls are paired with infamous checkpoints, which, beyond being dehumanizing and dangerous, turn a 20-minute commute from Jerusalem to the West Bank into 3 hours. Checkpoints are outfitted with facial recognition cameras, which automatically identify each person passing through and sort them into buckets based on their political stance and supposed threat level. The most dangerous of these are given a red label and singled out for harassment. People given this red label include journalists and human rights activists. This technology is called Red Wolf and paired with a similar Blue Wolf system that operates on Israeli soldiers' phones. Soldiers take a picture of whomever's face, and Blue Wolf shows them their personal details.
Where you've been, where you go, what you like, what you don't like, your private things.
As if this wasn't enough, communication via mobile phones and the internet is also heavily surveilled.
Most of the phone and internet system is routed through Israel.
Israel is controlling the ICT infrastructure in the occupied Palestinian territory, which means that Palestinians are not able to have safe access to the internet.
With control of basic communications infrastructure, the Israelis know every phone number and can tap any call.
Several investigations from The Guardian, Plus 972, Dropsite News, and others found that Israel's spy agency, Unit 8200, had been using Microsoft's Azure cloud software to store data on millions of civilians' phone calls per day. After immense public backlash and worker pressure, Microsoft would eventually block this use of their software. What Microsoft thought a spy agency notorious for invasive and inhumane levels of surveillance would do with its software, I couldn't tell you. What all of this surveillance results in is ungodly amounts of data on everything about Palestinians. Creating actionable uses for this data is where artificial intelligence comes in. Lavender, an AI-powered target selection tool whose safeguards are virtually nil, is capable of generating thousands of potential targets, anyone presumed to be linked with the Hamas militant wing. The parameters allowed for enormous amounts of collateral damage, 15 to 20 civilian deaths for a junior Hamas militant.
If it's a senior Hamas militant, then the numbers over 100, sometimes 300. And we know it happened.
Israel's AI-powered genocide involves very little human oversight. One source told Plus 972 magazine that human personnel often served as only a rubber stamp for the machine's decisions, adding that normally they would personally devote only about 20 seconds to each target before authorizing a bombing, just to make sure the Lavender-marked target is male. Lavender also has a 10% error rate, which I guess is also deemed acceptable as collateral damage. The frictionless occupation after October 7 became a frictionless genocide. 2 years before the genocide began, Google and Amazon inked a $1.2 billion deal called Project Nimbus, which involved U.S. tech giants building cloud infrastructure, i.e. data centers, in Israel, as well as providing the Israeli military with access to its full suite of cloud and AI services. While the U.S. companies officially claim that all customers must abide by its terms of service, there is no mechanism to ensure that is what Israel does. This much was revealed in internal Google documents and emails obtained by The Intercept, in which the company admitted 4 months prior to the deal being signed, quote, Google Cloud services could be used for or linked to the facilitation of human rights violations, including Israeli activity in the West Bank, resulting in, quote, reputation harm. But $1.2 billion is $1.2 billion, so Google and Amazon accepted the risk. All of this obviously is horrifying and sheds light on the brutality of Israel's apartheid regime well before October 7th. But Israel's surveillance technology is not just used to oppress Palestinians, it's used all over the world, most notably to control migration, refugee camps, and prisons, and to repress dissident voices. As Antony Lowenstein put it in the Palestine Laboratory, Israel is selling more than technology. They are selling an idea. They are selling themselves as a model for how to keep unwanted populations out. The United States has long been using Israeli tech to secure its border with Mexico. Notably, the same smart fence surveillance tower apparatus that Israel uses to secure its border with Gaza and the West Bank is used to funnel migrants on the US-Mexico border into choke points, routes with less surveillance where border control can apprehend them. Routes with less surveillance typically also cross through much more dangerous and unforgiving parts of the desert, which makes the US-Mexico border crossing the deadliest land crossing on Earth. Today, we see the US government tapping firms like Palantir to create systems like Immigration OS, a custom software platform that provides near real-time targeting of immigrants with the goal of making deportation logistics more efficient. Under Trump's mass deportation machine, ICE and partnering federal agencies must meet aggressive deportation quotas, a policy that inherently lends itself to abuse of power and dragnet operations. We have already seen that the feds are perfectly accepting of the same collateral damage as Israel. Combine this with the recently announced searchable national citizenship data system, and I think we can see where this is going. According to the Palestine Laboratory, after October 7, when Israel ramped up surveillance and their reliance on AI, they ran out of data center capacity. All of the infrastructure built before the genocide, it turns out, was not enough. So they ended up up moving much of their operations from dedicated military servers to civilian
Can't hear
servers.
you.
Here in the US, we are seeing our own boom in data center build-out
probably
thanks to
broken.
the AI race.
You're probably
Since
gonna have to
ChatGPT's launch
restart.
in 2022, spending in the private sector has more than doubled, and the US now has more data centers than every other major country combined. If you've been following the AI industry, you probably know that this is a massively overinflated bubble propped up by circular spending, and that the supposed use cases for AI are not exactly lucrative. Sora, for instance, costs OpenAI $5 to generate just one 10-second clip. But still, we're building data centers like mad, trillions of dollars set to be spent on them in the next several years. It's important to note that these numbers are largely bullshit. OpenAI simply doesn't have the money to follow through, and all of these companies are essentially circle jerking each other with money that doesn't exist. The bubble is being propped up by absurd amounts of venture capital and foreign capital, but even these investments need to see return eventually. And when OpenAI needs $1 trillion over the next 5 years just to stay afloat, and with no prospects to generate anywhere near that amount of revenue, the money is simply going to run dry. When the bubble bursts, when people wise up to the fact that OpenAI has been hemorrhaging money by running compute-intensive models to free consumers, that the outputs of good enough models are in fact not good enough, we are going to be left with massive amounts of already planned or built infrastructure. We will have gigawatts of latent data center capacity, and owners holding the bag will be eager to recoup their losses. They won't simply allow their high-tech infrastructure to go to waste, or God forbid return it to nature or the people. No, it was far too expensive for all that. This is where surveillance capitalism comes in. This is where military contracts come in. The 10% error rate was good enough for Israel's attempt to wipe out Hamas, and let's be clear, wiping out Hamas wasn't the goal anyways. The goal, of course, was the extermination of an entire people based on their race, and their AI targeting system provided the minuscule amount of plausible deniability needed to engage in their near-total destruction of Gaza. Here in the white supremacist United States, replace Hamas with Venezuelan gangs and criminals and illegal aliens, and you have the same dynamic. Just like Israel's genocide wasn't about fighting terror, the US deportation campaign is not about reducing crime. It's about ethnic cleansing.
No way.
We haven't gotten to the point of outright extermination of non-whites, but remember that Nazi Germany didn't arrive at the final solution until 9 years after the Nazis gained power. Technology was an indispensable part of the Nazi Holocaust. Companies like IBM providing equipment and services to manage prison populations and streamline the mass-killing machine. Surveillance has come a long way since then, but the one thing that hasn't changed is its alliance with fascism. The data center build-out is not only a disaster for the environment, for electric bills, for water rights, for indigenous peoples, for oppressed communities, it also serves as the backbone for a new age of surveillance capitalism. And if you don't believe that this is the ultimate goal of Silicon Valley, take it from Larry Ellison.
Our body cameras are simply...
It's Larry Ellison. Okay, it's not John McAfee.
Yeah, no shit. John McAfee wouldn't be saying shit like, we're going to have surveillance tech and it's going to be great. He would say some paranoid shit about how the government is going to start watching you.
That's true. That's true. And then he would give you free antivirus software.
No, but it wasn't. The software he gave you was literally just spyware.
No, I know. That's why it's so funny.
That's why it's funny that he would be the one, like, crying about a surveillance state.
Yes.
Like, you invented the stealing data for fucking profit.
It's very funny.
Lenses. Two lenses attached to your vest, attached to the smartphone that you're wearing. By the way, and the camera's always
It's
on.
so funny that I fucked up Coupe.
You can't turn it on. You go to the bathroom. Oracle, I need 2 minutes to take a bathroom break, and we'll turn it off.
Oh, you made all of them more
turn it
powerful.
And we transmit the video back to headquarters.
Yep.
So headquarters and AI is constantly monitoring the video.
just
The police will be on their best behavior. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording everything that's going on.
We watched this speech by Ellison where he talks about always-on cameras that continue to record even after the user turns it off, where citizens will be on their best behavior because they're always being watched, and AI is autonomously analyzing everything that comes in for suspicious activity, and we think, this is obviously supervillain shit. And yet, we have grown so accustomed to constant surveillance that nobody bats an eye at this. A big reason for this attitude towards surveillance is one of Silicon Valley's most brilliant marketing moves of all time. They have tricked us by way of smartwatches and Ring doorbells that surveillance is a feature that we should not only adopt, but pay extra for. Chris Gilliard, who studies digital privacy and surveillance at the intersection of race and class, calls this concept luxury surveillance. To illustrate, he asks us to consider the smartwatch. The device collects intimate data such as heart rate, blood pressure, GPS location, breathing patterns, the tone of...
How many of the tags here do you want to keep? The homo ones.
Whatever ones you think are good.
Okay. Fine. So... 6.
Oh my god, I'm so far behind because of that fucking misclick, bro.
Shall chuck China in there. US. Anti-fascist. Politics. And that'll be fine. That'll be
Get loaded
fine.
for you.
Nope. Just doing the same thing. See what happens.
Your voice and more. How different is that really than the ankle monitor? In fact, the smartwatch collects and analyzes vastly more.
Hey, we're in.
The difference, of course, is that users voluntarily
Smartwatches
accept this
are ankle
surveillance,
monitors.
whereas surveillance is forced upon the formerly incarcerated individual
that's such
as
a
a condition for release. Gilliard writes, quote,
interesting
in general
comparison.
terms, consumers of luxury surveillance see themselves as foreign and sovereign, and perhaps even immune from unwelcome monitoring and control. They see self-quantification and tracking not as disciplinary or coercive, but as a kind of care or empowerment. They understand it as something extra, something smart. Gilliard argues that the enthusiastic adoption of luxury surveillance devices such as smartwatches, doorbell cameras, smart beds, smart glasses, and everything involving AI indicates a tacit support for the vast network of surveillance that is becoming more impossible to opt out of by the day. This is what people who use luxury surveillance devices don't understand. By normalizing this technology, not only are you normalizing the far more intrusive, imposed surveillance on marginalized communities, but you are creating an environment where ever-increasing levels of surveillance on everyone is accepted. Willingness to adopt surveillance technologies often indicates an alignment with power. It says that you are in the in-group, the privileged class, and that the technology could only be used for your benefit. But according to Gilliard, data shows that these supposed benefits are often illusory and in fact will likely worsen the conditions that made the tech seem attractive in the first place. Gilliard gives the example of Ring surveillance cameras and the corresponding Neighbors app, both owned by Amazon. People purchase this technology to feel and be safer. But he writes, quote, data shows that the people who use the devices not only are no more safe than they were without them, but also feel less safe. By producing anxiety in some of its users, Amazon makes their need for its products seem more intense, even though the products themselves produce the anxiety. Amazon's strategy is classic Silicon Valley. They create or intensify the problem and then sell the solution. With surveillance, this cycle doesn't just affect the individual. Gilliard writes, quote, it intensifies a climate of anxiety for everyone. It expands the net of surveillance over everyone. It normalizes suspicion and diminishes our inclinations to trust each other. Technology is often talked about as an inherent good, and the latest and greatest tech, be it surveillance or AI, are said to be inevitable. You must embrace these technologies.
So loud. Like I can't even talk over him. I even tried to turn myself up. I need to decongest myself too. Raise your population. So if you have like traders, trade for food inside your settlements.
Yeah.
And build farms.
Yeah, okay. I fucking should have taken this fucking city from Coupe, I swear to God. I'm done fucked up. I got 2 trade routes I'm gonna make traders. I'm even in a heroic age and I'm still losing the fucking cities.
You should try to,
Like, I can pretty much siege
raise
them.
the population of the cities around it, and they'll put more pressure onto that city for loyalty.
I'm trying.
Not really too much you can do.
I'm just going to continue taking out the city every time it rebels. I'm just not going to build walls around it.
Yeah. If you know you're going to lose loyalty in a city, don't build walls.
Yeah.
There's also there's this policy, Limitani. It's a red policy. +2 loyalty per turn for cities with a garrison.
I've already got
unit.
it.
Okay.
And
the other one
also
would be
got
the
the
governor.
green one. I've already got the green one too.
Yeah, there's not much else you can do besides that. Get that one governor as well, and then have her upgraded enough.
Actually, that being said, I should put a governor in... interesting. Reassign? Yeah, we'll go from the...
Oh, I might take this Dark Age policy to catch up. Cannot
I've always
train
looked at
settlers nor settle new cities. But I'll get more food and production. And I already have 5 cities, so I'm pretty ahead on it. So... I think I'm going to go for the food there. To try and raise my shit.
I'm gonna make friends with the Zulu, so if I need them to kill Kupe, I can fucking recruit them. I'm not sure where they are, though. Have we got open borders?
I guess we'll take
No,
this.
I think I did.
We can
I
probably
think I did
trade
give him.
more if we have a stockpile.
Yes, okay, we do have open borders, great. I'm like, why are blue guys in my city?
Gotta keep looking, because I'm not in my usual frame. I have such little limits today.
Yes. Play the video.
Technologies or be left behind. If you bring up the real-world harms, you are dismissed as closed-minded, anti-progress, a technology hater. But we must remember that all of this tech is in its infancy, and we have more power than we think to reject Silicon Valley's logic of hyper-efficiency, of moving fast and breaking things, of worshipping progress with no regard for ever-increasing levels of collateral damage. The vision of technology offered by Silicon Valley is completely empty of any human values. Empathy is replaced with apathy.
I'm still way quieter than the video.
White supremacy. Democracy is
trying to
replaced
get
with
it.
fascism. And nature is replaced with digital utopia.
I need to
if
be
we want a truly democratic society,
in a certain
if we want
zone.
technology to be a liberatory force that it was supposed to be, or at least not actively used to harm us, we need to exercise
Try
our
to
power
open
over
it a little.
We need to say no to Silicon Valley's inevitable techno-dystopian future.
I hate that you can hear the button be engaging when I'm trying to unmute and it doesn't unmute. The button sucks.
A person
oh wait, I
opposed to new
already had a
technology or
settler
ways of
out.
working. The example sentence is a small-minded Luddite
And
resisting
then I took that
progress.
Dark
This
Age
dismissive
policy
language
even though I
is
had a
easily the most
settler out
accessible
ready to
definition
settle a
for
city.
has a much deeper
Kupe has the fucking balls to ask me if I'm moving my troops near him for war. Bro, fuck you. I should have declared war, but I'm busy.
I fucked up so hard just now.
What'd you do?
Nothing. I already had a settler out, and I took the Dark Age policy that I can't train settlers. I should have waited to take that policy.
Does it delete the settler?
No, I just can't settle him. So he's just out in the open, ready where he was going to settle.
Oh, you can't settle the city. Okay.
Yeah, I might be able to change it next turn. I'm sending out all my explorers.
Oh, you got scouts?
Well, I just produced a lot of military to
okay.
take that city that I went to war with on mistake.
Can you tell me what my military strength is?
No, because I don't see you yet.
Progress. Yet the word is weaponized by AI boosters and tech bros alike to shut down anyone who resists the negative impacts of technology. They say we hate technology because we don't understand it. They say
I
this
think
is just
I might
how the
have
world
called
works, and if you don't
Osaka.
keep up, you'll be left behind. This logic lies at the center of the race towards artificial general intelligence.
I'm gonna
or
keep
AI,
Osaka!
and lends itself to thinking that the digital
Finally!
utopia AGI will
I've
bring
lost
about
this city
justifies
4
any
fucking
present-day
times.
sacrifices we must make. We, of course, being the working class and not the ones making decisions. Think for a second about the people making these arguments. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Mark Andreessen, Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg. Isn't it convenient that their religion of infinite growth and inevitability personally profits them? Isn't it convenient that they and their minions scream Luddite at anyone who stands in the way of their plutocratic future? Too often we forget that the lionization of disruption and progress is a modern construct. In the early 1800s, capitalism was in its infancy. We had not had our brains drilled with centuries of propaganda about the inherent value of technology and innovation. This is the context in which the
200
historical
gold
Luddites
to
launched their
change my
rebellion. So if
policies
the layman's
now.
definition of Luddite that I listed earlier is incorrect, who were the Luddites? What did they want? And why did they resist the relentless march of technological progress? To help answer these questions, I had the pleasure of speaking with Brian Merchant, whose work I've been following for a while and you've probably seen referenced on the channel before. Brian wrote a book about the Luddite uprising called Blood in the Machine and runs a tech blog under the same name. He gave the following description
That's
of
a
the
great
Luddites.
name.
The real Luddites were those sort of skilled workers working in sort of in the cloth working districts when this industrial revolution was gaining steam, and when specifically the factory owning class began to sort of really put the pedal down on building those factories, dividing labor, and using machinery to facilitate that division of labor. In the process, they started hiring more precarious workers, non-skilled workers, famously children, to work in these factories, essentially de-skilling those industrial workers.
Prior to the implementation of automation, the skilled workers that became Luddites enjoyed a simple but rewarding life. They would study as apprentices for 7 years or so, learning the nuances of the trade, devoting time and energy towards what was supposed to be a lifelong career. They worked hard, but they had a tight-knit community of fellow workers, and they took pride in the quality of their work. There were rules, traditions, laws, and if you wanted to be a cloth worker, you had to follow them. The factory owners, however, decided that these regulations didn't apply to them. Merchant writes, quote, "Then, as now, the most ambitious deployed their technologies and expanded their factories regardless of whether they might be running afoul of some dusty old laws, and then lobbied the government to overturn them outright when the workers complained. The chief method of exploitation that the Luddites resisted emerged with the rise of automating machines such as power looms. Such devices produced lower quality products and had to be sold for less, but they could be run with little oversight, often using the labor of children whom they could pay less."
Just like today, there was a very clear downgrade, and that was another thing that the Luddites protested. And that's the quality of the cloth that the machines that were mass producing it would churn out was much lower, and that that meant that the factory owners and the factory bosses had to sell it for less, and that would drive the wages and the price of goods down all across the region, and it would sort of impact the reputation of the trade. And so today we see similar things happening with AI.
The Luddites did not hate technology or progress. They hated exploitation. Luddites, in fact, often advocated technology, especially tech that could improve their working conditions or make it easier to attest to the quality of their work. But technology was not seen as inevitable or inherently progressive. As Merchant
What's
points
going
out,
on over there on that side of the world?
Lionize disruption. To them, devices that would degrade their working conditions or harm their ability to earn a living were a moral violation. Plain
the
and
Scottish
simple. The
here?
artisans and craftsmen knew
And
exactly
it's just like
on the other side of
their
me.
trade. They considered
Just waiting
technology
for
as a
you to
force
end
taking
your
shape
turn.
not in the future, but in the present tense.
Yeah, I'm
as
trying to
historian of
decide what to
technology
do. I'm
David
also
Noble.
I
The
also
Luddites did not
have
resort to smashing what they called the obnoxious
barbarians
machines
above
right away.
me, so
They
I've
spent about 10
been
years
hoping that they
trying
don't
to,
attack
call for
Yokohama.
reforms that would protect
So
the
I
wage
can keep
deterioration
that
was
city, because I
happening.
use
Factory
that
owners were
city
doing this for one
as a
reason and one
block
reason only,
to
and that's to
contain Coupe, this
concentrate,
fucking
more
cunt,
of the
because he was
profits in their
expanding
hands.
so
And over the
quickly.
course of 10 years, they get laughed out of Parliament over and over again, and eventually all these old regulations
My
that had been on the
fucking
books,
horse.
which is important to note that the industrialists were trampling over. There were laws about the kind of, the cloth count that you had, or how long somebody had to be an apprentice before they could officially join the trade, things that helped regulate and normalize the trade and stabilize it, so that everybody could make a living. Industrialists used the new machines and sometimes old machines as an excuse to say, like, oh, well, they don't apply anymore. We're doing it a new way. And so finally, with their backs against the wall, you see this group of workers start to organize after
doing things the right way for 10 years, peacefully agitating for minimum wages, regulations to be upheld and observed, they finally have no other recourse as they see it. The machines and the factory owners who run them are stealing their bread, as they put it, with the obnoxious machines. So they organize themselves into sort of paramilitary groups, and it's a distributed structure, kind of like Occupy Wall Street is now, where you have different cells of
I
Luddites.
can't believe
And they
I
rise
didn't
up,
look to see if I
and
already
they
had a
have
settler
tactic where
before
they
taking
send a
the
threatening letter
policy.
to a local factory owner, say, we know you've got 800 of the obnoxious machines. It's put 3,000 of our brothers out of work. Take down the machines and adhere to the rules of the trade. Restore fair wages, or you'll get a visit from Ned Lead's army. If they took them down, it would be fine. If they didn't, then they would brandish a hammer that they call Enoch. They would either hold the overseer up at gunpoint and slip in through the door, or go in through the window, however else, and they would smash the machines that the machine owners were using to tear up the social contract. And they became just as famous as Robin Hood in their day, and just as heroic. People wrote songs about them. People cheered them in the streets. They were a feared and sort of mighty rebellion for a time, until the state did all it could to crush them.
The historical misconception of the Luddites as machine-breaking brutes who did not understand technology couldn't be farther from the truth. They understood technology all too well, and they understood the forces of capitalism negatively affecting their economic and material reality. They rebelled against the obnoxious machines because they were starving and impoverished, but the machines were merely a symbol of what they were truly fighting against, the concentration of wealth in the hands of the few at the cost of the many. Today's fight against the big tech agenda is just the same, only we are dealing with centuries of capitalist indoctrination that tells us, no, exploitation is natural and good. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, as managers and executives feel they must automate and pursue profit at the cost of employee well-being because everyone's doing it. As Luddite George Meller lamented, quote, "The natural rights of man are not thought of in this country. The unnatural rights of property have swallowed him up. It's all property, property." There has been a lot of talk lately of AI automating away millions of jobs. Brian is running a series on his blog called AI Killed My Job, which he admits is tongue-in-cheek because AI is not killing anyone's job. It's the tech executives and the bottom-line bosses. But the impact on jobs has been loudly touted by everyone from Sam Altman to Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic. And although this is part of the hype cycle, there is no denying that it is negatively impacting jobs today. The weird thing about this hype cycle compared to previous tech hype cycles is that the tech oligarchs don't even seem concerned about framing this change as a good thing, at least not for the average person. But for capital, which seeks to liberate itself from the inefficient human, it is a dream come true. Still, there are significant doubts about the likelihood of something like the AI jobs apocalypse that Altman and Amodei swear is coming. MIT recently published a study that found 95% of businesses that implemented Gen AI processes failed to turn a profit. What's more likely is what we're already seeing, that executives will use AI as leverage to degrade, devalue, and de-skill work. So far, this is what 3 installments of Brian's series has confirmed. Take translation, for instance. Translators' jobs do not involve simply converting words, but capturing the meaning and intent of a given text and artfully crafting it into a different language. They have long been threatened by machine translations, which according to translators profiled in Merchant's piece, often produce worse results and require more time cleaning up than a human translator would have spent on the translation from scratch. But clients are able to pay far less for this machine translation post-editing work, so their bottom line profits go up while quality goes down. This has only intensified with the rise of generative AI and LLM translation. Lucille Danov said of the reason for this, quote, "While LLMs are able to replicate human speech patterns with eerie accuracy, it bears reminding that they do not think nor understand meaning and intent like the human brain does." Central to Merchant's series is what he calls the good enough principle. Workers aren't worried that AI-generated results are going to be better. Quote, "Their fear is that clients, managers, and even consumers will deem AI art good enough, as the companies that produce it push down their wages and corrode their ability to earn a living." The irony of this, of course, is that the good enough principle doesn't apply to the automation of menial, repetitive tasks that demand accuracy. Gen AI's notorious hallucination problem isn't going anywhere. So bosses seek areas of work that they can get away with lower accuracy, such as creative work that can theoretically be cleaned up in post. I'm getting triggered just talking about this. One thing repeatedly mentioned by creative professionals that Merchant profiles is that this cleaning up process of AI is nowhere near as simple as managers and clients think it is. AI-generated images don't come in a neat layered Photoshop file. They are just one static image, and any changes or color correction requires detailed attention, especially if it is a series of images that need to be consistent, like an illustrated children's book. What we see time and again is an utter disconnect between the managers eating up AI propaganda and forcing their teams to adapt or get left behind, and the workers who are doing the same amount of work or more, but instead of exercising their creativity, they are forced to tinker with AI slop, often for less pay, by the way. All of this degradation and dehumanization contributes to a further hollowing out of modern existence, and it's hard not to ask the question if this is all worth it. Were we happier as humans before the internet and Silicon Valley came here and disrupted their way into wealth and power? Is it wise to allow a handful of ultra-wealthy sociopaths
Bro only has 9 gold.
No guardrails or regulations?
And he's trying to buy my tea. He's like, look man, it's all the gold I have.
The ends of a future utopia
no!
justify the means of environmental destruction and exploitation of poor communities? And if the answer to these questions is no, then the question we need to ask is, what should we do about it? Is it time to pick up our proverbial hammers and smash the machines that Silicon Valley is using to impede humanity's progress? The Butlerian Jihad has taken on a life of its own. It's become a meme, and for the most part, people seem to have no idea where it came from. The rage against big tech and their technologies of control is so persistent that people don't need to read the source material to understand what is meant by destroying the machines. But here on the Stories We Tell, we like to go a little deeper, so let's take a look at the Butlerian Jihad, its origins, and how it can be instructive. The phrase comes from Frank Herbert's 1965 sci-fi masterpiece, Dune, and its subsequent sequels. But it's actually pretty marginal within the novel's pages. In fact, it's only referenced directly a handful of times. The most lasting and prescient quote, of course, is this: "Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hopes that it would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them." In the Dune universe, the Duneverse, if you will, far before the series began, humans became increasingly reliant on thinking machines to manage trade, transportation, and communication. But these would eventually become tools of control, used by the powerful to subjugate and enslave the disempowered. The Butlerian Jihad emerged as a great revolt against these thinking machines, which resulted in the world of Dune being reliant on specially trained human computers called mentats, and strict rules forbidding the creation of machines resembling the human mind. One such rule in the Orange Catholic Bible is, quote, "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." Say hi to my dog. The Butlerian Jihad is a critique of the limits of deterministic technology, and a useful plot device for Herbert, whose series is essentially an exploration of the human condition, especially the power of the human mind. Herbert describes that humans had become complacent under the, quote, "God of machine logic," saying that machines are incapable of thinking and reasoning. It was a powerful idea, that of a great uprising against thinking machines that men had used to enslave humanity. In fact, prior to his death, Herbert planned to co-author a prequel about the Butlerian Jihad with Willis McNulty, who would eventually write the Dune Encyclopedia. According to McNulty, his general plot outline was approved by Herbert, who wrote the first chapter before his untimely death. McNulty actually sent this chapter to the Herbert estate, who, according to him, never replied. Later on, and quite suspiciously, I might add, Frank's son, Brian Herbert, would eventually publish Dune, the Butlerian Jihad in 2004. From reading the summary of this book, it sounds like it fully goes the route of evil robots who want to take over the world, which is exactly the opposite of what Frank Herbert wanted to communicate. It was not the robots that were evil, but the few men who used the robots to enslave the rest of humanity. Yo, editing Ryan here. So while I was looking for B-roll for this portion, I came upon this scene that was apparently the opening of the new Dune Prophecy show on HBO. Now, I haven't seen the show. I don't really have any desire to, but apparently it's adapted from Brian Herbert's prequel series and actually shows exactly what I'm talking about. Take a look.
When humans rose up against the thinking machines that had enslaved them, history says it was an Atreides who led them to victory.
Notice how the narration says that thinking machines had enslaved humanity seemingly all on their own and not other humans using machines. This framing, I think, is a lot less powerful and relevant to how technology is being used today, which I'm about to get into a little bit more. And maybe this is just personal preference, but I don't know. I feel like these machines, apparently they're called Cymex, just really look kind of corny, like what a 6-year-old would draw if they were asked to draw evil robots. So anyways, just had to throw that in. Brian's trite of the Butlerian Jihad, however, has proved the more lasting fear about technology, that it will go rogue all on its own and wipe out humanity. We see this fear of existential catastrophe as the prevailing narrative in the AI community, a convenient framing that overstates the power of the technology and positions AI regulation as designed to prevent this future catastrophic risk, rather than reining in present-day exploitation. Anyways, the inspiration for the Butlerian Jihad came from English author Samuel Butler, who was among the first to apply Darwin's theory of evolution to
got rid of
potential
that
artificial
policy.
intelligence. In a letter to the editor of New Zealand paper The Press, he offers that machines could be thought of as undergoing evolution and may soon overtake humans. He writes, quote, "What sort of creature man's next successor in the supremacy of the earth is likely to be? We have often heard this debated, but it appears to us that we are ourselves creating our own successors. We are daily adding to the beauty and delicacy of their physical organization. We are daily giving them greater power and supplying all sorts of ingenious contrivances, that self-regulating, self-acting power which will be to them what intellect has been to the human race." Butler argues that such machines would be superior in power and self-control, plagued by no human emotions and desires, in a perpetual state of calm, wanting nothing. It's only a matter of time, he says, before we become subservient to these machines and devote our lives to their needs. His conclusion, therefore, is, quote, "War to the death, instantly proclaimed against them, while our subservience is still not guaranteed." While Butler's version of machine self-improvement and human subservience to robots has not yet come to pass, it's still useful to understand that this fascination with machine intelligence has been with us for a long time. In fact, as Merchant mentions in Blood in the Machine, Homer's Iliad, written around 700 BCE, used the word automation to describe, quote, self-moving and intelligent machines fabricated by Hephaestus, the blacksmith god of technology. In an essay on Butler's work, Ed Ongweso Jr. points out what I see as the more relevant critique of Butler, that of our blind faith and dependence on technology. Ongweso writes, quote, "A world where we prioritize the relentless advancement of technology and a universal dependence on it in the name of efficiency is a world where we prioritize a certain political economic order that is more interested in advancing technologies based on criteria that have little to do with human flourishing, instead being much more interested in financing and designing and deploying them against people, in organizing the greater whole of humanity such that they are more profitable and less likely to revolt against an arrangement that is incredibly lucrative for increasingly few." This technological dependence is precisely the through line that
his
connects Butler's
background
work to
music
Frank
is
Herbert's
like
interpretation of
perfect
it,
for
which
Civ.
focuses on technology's impact on the thinking mind. In God Emperor of Dune, he writes, quote, "What do such machines really do? They increase the number of things we can do.
It's
without
funny
thinking.
because
Things we do without thinking.
Elon
There's the
Musk
real
and
danger.
like
This
Grimes
argument
and
that
stuff
machine
love
intelligence
Dune,
can contribute
so
to
you know
dumbing
they're
down
like
humanity
interpreting
seems to
it
have some teeth to it.
like
A study
stupidly.
from MIT Media Lab
Oh, yeah,
found
for
that
sure.
people who used ChatGPT for writing had the lowest brain engagement and consistently underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels. Over the course of the study, students measured would offload more and more cognition to generative AI with each passing test, until by the end of the study, they were largely copying and pasting directly from ChatGPT. The devastation certain uses of technology is bringing on education is a whole other can of worms. Not only generative AI, but also the implementation of technology like iPads and Chromebooks in the classroom. More Perfect Union has a great
iPad
video
kids.
on this, so I won't harp on the point. But we can see in just the first 2 years of the generative AI boom that Herbert's warnings of over-reliance on technology have indeed come to fruition. Ultimately, from Butler to Herbert to the Luddites, the concern is not about technology itself, but the socio-economic power behind it, and how said power influences our relationship to it. As Ongweso writes, quote, "Technology is downstream of politics and economics and history and social relations. We aren't saying destroy the clocks before they become killer drones, but we are saying that the killer drones are already here, and we should figure out how to destroy them." Clearly, technological dependence obscures the political and economic decisions about what sort of technologies should be developed, how they
so
should be
for me,
financed,
the
who should
big
finance their
thing that
development
I've
and reap the rewards and bear
underestimated
their
a long
costs,
time
and how
with
society
Civ
should be organized around the facts
is
of those arrangements. So that brings
prioritizing
us to the question of this
production
video.
above food.
Sure.
So like,
I always
it-
prioritize
like,
production.
So you want to prioritize food
Oh, okay.
because the higher your population is, the better the production's going to be anyway, and the amount of specialty districts you can build comes from the population. That's what
yes.
makes civilizations like Gandhi, who grow their civs really fast, or there's Yandel in China. He can grow his civs really fast by injecting food.
Okay.
So you'll have like massive population. It just helps you build that snowball that you need to create.
Yeah.
Production is better later.
Okay.
So like also like lumber mills over farms, depending on your placement. Like if you're in the Arctic and you're not able to build farms, build lumber mills instead of chopping the trees.
Yeah.
But if you chop the trees, you get the boost to production now, and then you'll be able to build a farm to get the boost to production later.
Yeah.
I still don't have walls around my capital. It would take me 1 turn to build.
Do you want them?
I don't need them. If I do need them, like a barbarian gets close, I'll just take 1 turn to get walls and then shoot them.
Video. Should we destroy the machines? Well, from cognitive offloading to weapons technology to surveillance to loneliness-inducing AI companions to environmental devastation to techno-fascism, all signs seem to point to the answer yes. Obviously, we should destroy the machines. But what if should we destroy the machines is the wrong question? The machines are not to blame for any of the problems I just named.
Damn.
Humans using machines are responsible. Social media
Bruv,
hasn't isolated us
these
in
are
polarizing
some
echo chambers because
good-ass
using
deals
technology to
here.
connect with each other is anti-human. Mark Zuckerberg designed Facebook to
So-
do this. AI data centers aren't wreaking havoc on the environment because all AI is evil.
Sokka
Sam
is
Altman
giving
and Silicon
me
Valley's move fast break things model has
7
steamrolled
gold per
regulation and
turn
law to impose their
for
hyperscale
10
vision of the
gunpowder.
future on the rest of us. People aren't subject to
Salahudeen
inhumane working conditions
is
at Amazon
68 gold
warehouses
now,
because the surveillance
no gold
cameras
per
have it out for
turn
them.
for
Jeff
10
Bezos and
gunpowder.
Amazon pursued such dehumanizing technology to improve their bottom line. Killer robots don't exist because robots are inherently evil and will turn
Oh,
against
could they
us and wipe
fuck
out
you?
humanity at the first chance they get. They exist because the military-industrial
Like, the
complex has
7
pumped
is
money
the
into
better
Silicon
deal
Valley
in
from
the
beginning,
long run.
and because people have designed the killer robots to kill us. Merchant writes,
But
quote,
I'd rather just
one can
take
lazily
their
claim
money
that all
now.
of this has simply been inevitable.
So
and
I
it
think
always
I'm
will
gonna
be
go
thus.
with
That
17.
technology, not people, creates winners and losers. And because it eventually makes more of us
Oh, and
winners,
Coupe wants to
allegedly,
give me 8
then it is
gold per
absurd
turn
to
for
protest its
25
march.
iron.
But it is
Hell
much
yeah.
more absurd to pretend that there are no possible alternative arrangements. To think that technology, the product of concerted human
Anyone want
invention and
open
innovation,
borders?
can
You
only be
do.
introduced to
2 more
society
gold
through
per turn.
reckless
Thank
disruption,
you.
or that it's unthinkable that advancements in technology
wants
might be
orcas?
integrated into our lives democratically and with care.
59
If we are
gold
ingenious
now,
enough to automate
offering
large-scale
all his
production,
gold.
build spacecraft, and invent artificial intelligences, are we not ingenious enough to
Which
ensure that
potentially
advancing
might put him in
technology
debt,
benefits
so
all
I'm
and
gonna
not just a
take
few?
that.
So no, we should not destroy the machines. Well, perhaps some of them.
I'm
But what
gonna...
we really should be destroying is Silicon Valley.
So I'm not going to be able to hold this city-state that I annexed. I'm going to let it go to Scotland, and then I'm going to loot it before it does. Because it had
while
so
it's a
many
free
farms.
city.
Exactly. I'm going to loot the fuck out of it, then give it to Scotland, and they can deal with the repairs.
Valley.
Oh shit, I'm forming, by the way, it's a game mechanic that's built into the game, an extra mechanic that I put on. It's still very loud compared to me.
I can
Some
hear you
people might
fine.
look back on the Luddites and say that they failed.
It's
must
just
be your
hard to
audio
hear
because
in
of
my
wave of
own
automation
head.
or industrial capitalism's exploitative labor practices. But what they did do was make it untenable for most factory owners to
It's
employ
monopolies and corporations mode. So if you
Yes,
have
I've seen
multiple
that one.
luxuries, you can form industries, and you can use your great engineers to form monopolies.
Oh, is that what this industry is?
Yeah. So
I have a
it
penguin
starts
industry.
pushing you. Yeah, now I have orcas. I'm about to. What a sad industry that I founded is that I'm going to start selling orcas to people.
I've got cashmere in Yokohama. Maybe I'll make some cashmere stuff. That's a good idea. Hey, bananas. Oh, potatoes. LA. Okay. What's taking so long?
Oh, I was
obnoxious
waiting to
machines
talk
until
to
there
you
was
about the mechanic that's in this.
crisis of profitability. The decade of fierce Luddite militancy gave time for unions to lobby relentlessly for
The other
worker
one that we'll
protections,
eventually
ultimately
play with
resulting
is
in the
secret
repealing of the
societies,
Combination
but I
Acts,
don't really
which had outlawed
understand
trade
it
unions and collective
because I've
bargaining.
only
In solidarity
and
in the
there's
face of
4
state
different
repression.
secret
One of the most
governors you
powerful
can
things
get,
about
and they
the Luddite
each do
movement was
different things.
was their solidarity. The
Interesting.
network of relationships to
Like,
each
one
other
is, like,
and to other people in their
gives
trade
you
was incredibly
vampires.
powerful. And that is something that is very difficult to
One
you
is,
know,
like,
to,
good
to
for religion.
recreate in conditions, especially when
One can build
you know,
forts
we are in
all
some
over
ways
the
living
place
polar
and
opposites
shit.
of that. These are like men who grew up in communities where it was pretty much expected you're going to go into the cloth trade or be a part of it in one way or another. And they're either the men that you would work with or kids that you would know from around
Do we
town
open
and that maybe
borders?
you've been working
We
with
do,
for 10
thank
years
you.
by the time
Thanks. Nice
that you're
talking to
25,
you,
since
sir.
you're 15 years old.
Good
So
day.
the Luddites had real trust and real sort of faith in one another, and they moved together in ways that is, I think, hard for a lot of political movements to imagine today.
We have had Occupy Wall Street and the Arab Spring and Black Lives Matter and the encampments in solidarity with Palestine and youth-led climate movements, but on the surface, it would seem like these have not accomplished their goals. Wealth has continued to consolidate into the hands of the few at the cost of the many. Police budgets have continued to balloon. The Arab Spring is seen as a failure by many, with Tunisia, where the revolutions began, being the only country that could be said to have
Got the
achieved
open
meaningful,
borders I
lasting
can
change.
have.
Last year's Palestinian encampments were brutally repressed, and aside from a few smaller universities, failed to achieve their goals in pressuring university administrations to divest from Israeli-linked investments. And on the climate justice front, I don't think I need to remind you all that nowhere near the level of decarbonization we need.
Have you
has
seen
been
Mansa
achieved. All
Musa
that being
yet?
said, it would be lazy and incorrect analysis to suggest that these movements have completely failed.
The
This
only
is
reason I
prevailing
know he's in the
narrative around
game is
Arab
'cause it's
Spring,
said in the
that of
beginning.
failure, counter-revolution, chaos, and fleeting
He
revolutionary
must be in
energy.
the
But I think
South.
his narrative does a disservice to the movement's
Possibly.
legacy in the Arab world and globally. At its core, the movement was a revolt against the poisoning effects of global capitalism and its influence on Arab countries' political structures, primarily manifesting as rampant corruption, wealth disparity, and subservience to Western imperialism. The reasons for its failures are complex and worth exploring certainly, but that's far beyond the scope of this video. What I want to emphasize in instead of singularly focusing on its failures, is the fact that the movement served as a catalyst for a massive awakening of the global working class, going on to inspire Occupy Wall Street and the explosion of the global anti-austerity movement. In the US, Occupy Wall Street played a huge role in the now widespread rejection of neoliberal capitalism and the broader socialist or socialist-adjacent upsurgences of Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Zohran Mamdani, and has inspired a generation of activists and organizers. Black Lives Matter created a cultural reckoning with the role of policing and incarceration and mainstreamed abolitionist ideas. Not to mention, in cities like Chicago and Denver, alternatives to policing in the form of community safety programs have seen huge success. The university encampments for Palestine shined a light on the deep Israeli influence in all sectors of American institutions and reinvigorated the Palestinian liberation movement in the US. Youth-led climate movements exposed the hypocrisy and corruption of international leaders
Greta!
addressing the climate crisis.
The GOAT.
The link between global capitalism, imperialism,
I was thinking,
change,
did I tell you
as is
about
always the
doing
case,
an award
policy
show
lags behind culture.
just for the
And these
memes of
movements have
it?
unequivocally succeeded in
And
shifting culture,
give it,
but
we're,
shifting the culture
we'll give
isn't.
Greta the
And I
Peace
think a lot of
Prize.
people have
Oh,
grown
that's funny.
disillusioned with our people power
Well,
to impact wide
it's
scale.
funny because I was talking to Wendy about this, and we should just give ourselves fake awards to make ourselves seem more legitimate.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's just doing an award show with nominees and shit.
That'd be great. We should do that.
A lasting change. Political
do it at the
nihilism
start
is
of the year.
rampant through our society. The billionaire class seems to have too thoroughly entrenched its power, and it feels impossible to fight back effectively. A massive reason for this attitude is
Anytime
the
you
decline
think
in
of
labor
a good
unions.
category
Labor
with
unions were once as
nominees, just
American
chuck
as
it in a
apple pie.
Google Doc.
Now, most people see them as relics of a bygone era of worker power. To illustrate, compare the U.S. to Italy, whose labor unions banded together to organize
I'll be
a mass
there
strike in
soon.
solidarity with Palestinians.
I'm almost.
Look at these images of millions striking, not even for their material gain, but for the human rights and dignity of other people. And try to imagine
Probably
something like this
halfway
happening
across
in
the
US.
north.
It's almost laughable. But we have
For
to
what
keep in
the
mind
map
that
is.
the
I'm
decline
just
of
guessing.
labor power is the direct result of a
I
decades-long
only say a little
bipartisan
bit 'cause
effort
I've been
to
dealing
break
with a
worker
bunch of
power,
shit.
to de-radicalize labor unions, to turn organizations against one another,
But I haven't
and to
seen
shove hyper-individualist
basically
messaging
because,
down
like
our
you said,
throats.
you've
So
seen
we can't use that as an
Salahuddin.
excuse. Unionization, in fact, was
So
illegal
that's why I
in the
think
Luddites
you must
days,
be closer
as it is
to
today
him.
for gig workers across the country. Quick note of clarification, it's not exactly illegal to unionize as a gig worker. What I'm referring to is the fact that Uber and other platforms classify their workers as independent contractors rather than employees,
Yes.
which effectively gives them the ability to skirt labor laws. Independent contractors have far less worker protections under the National Labor Relations Board, and that makes the process of unionizing much more difficult and risky. The Biden administration supposedly passed a rule which made it more difficult to classify gig workers as contractors, but a couple days later, Uber issued this statement saying they wouldn't change anything about the classification of its employees. And anyways, once Trump took office, his administration no longer enforces this rule. But that didn't prevent the Luddites from organizing, and it hasn't stopped gig workers in California, Chicago, and elsewhere. These initiatives, along with unionization efforts at Amazon, Starbucks, and the tech sector, among others, give me a glimmer of hope about the future of labor. But in a post-communist world, when there are no global threats to capitalism, labor organizing is an uphill battle, and corporations, by and large, have free rein to crack down hard on their employees. As a result, organizing in the US has come to revolve more around the community rather than the workplace. That's not to dismiss community organizing, by the way. I think it's the most important thing that we should all be doing. But without a strong and robust labor movement, it's easier to disregard the demands of the community. The shift away from the workplace also means that organizing has become more of a middle-class endeavor. If people aren't fighting for their own economic interest, organizing becomes a much harder sell. Right now, we have an energy behind radicalism. Someone like Trump captures the imagination of the people because he provides an alternative vision to the status quo that has failed so many. Over the next several years, I think all but the most brainwashed will realize that despite his promises, their lives aren't getting better. This offers an opportunity to move people
There's
toward
this
an
belt
economically and
of
socially
city-states
egalitarian left-wing
around
movement. Things like police
Saudi
abolition
Arabia.
are no longer unthinkable, even at sanitized
And
protests.
there was kind
like
of a belt of
I saw dozens
city-states
signs calling for the
between
abolition of
me and
ICE.
Norway,
Now, a
but I
million
took
leftists
both
online
of
like
them
to shit
now.
on things like the No Kings protests.
So
while it's certainly
that
true that these mass rallies
misclick
don't have
ended
much
up
of a coherent
benefiting me
political vision,
and
it's also
in the
true
end,
that they
because
are
I was able to
indispensable
annex
ways to funnel
Brussels
people into
anyway.
longer-term organizing. At the latest rally
And have
in
enough
Chicago,
pressure
I saw
to
dozens
keep
of
it.
organizations handing out pamphlets and tabling. I also heard from the speakers calls to join anti-ICE rapid response networks. I heard the mayor of Chicago call for a general strike. Full spectrum resistance means understanding that all these tactics play a role in effective resistance, and in fact, we need all of them in order to win. The big tech backlash, whether everyone realizes it or not, is an outgrowth of the backlash to neoliberalism and the consolidation of wealth and power. At present, policy is the only realistic way we can rein in these abuses. But especially
Merchant
under this
Republic.
administration, it's not going to move quickly. Silicon Valley, on the other hand, has a move fast, break things model, which ensures that it is always a step ahead of bureaucracy.
I was holding
Where
back
what
my
little
district
regulation we
building.
have is being demolished in front
That's
of our
why I
eyes.
was behind.
We need to develop more aggressive tactics.
So these companies have
And
immense power.
because I
they have concentrated
prioritized
immense
military,
wealth. They
so
are
then
sort of
I started
accountable to very few,
cranking
to some
builders
extent, their shareholders,
to enhance
not,
as many
you know,
tiles
like
as I
much. They've been
could,
very effective in
because
keeping,
all my
you know,
districts get
regulators at
adjacency
bay.
bonuses
Drafting
for
and regulate them
mines.
here in the States has mostly failed.
So now my
it is one
districts
of
will
these
be more powerful and I'll be able to
moments
build
where,
them
you know,
very
we
quickly.
really have to sort of think about what the way forward is going to be. The only thing that is clear is that one way or another, it's going to start with a hell of a lot of organizing. There's people that are doing it. There are different coalitions forming, and that there's an appetite, even among some of these oppressed and quiet workers that may be growing that we can look to try to kindle and support.
Take Microsoft's worker-led No Azure for Apartheid, part of the larger No Tech for Apartheid network, which is organizing workers against the use of big tech products in Israel's genocide and apartheid regime. No Azure for Apartheid won a massive win prior to the implementation of the current ceasefire, when Microsoft finally blocked Israeli spy agency Unit 8200 from accessing its cloud and AI services due to them engaging in mass surveillance on Palestinian civilians. Microsoft didn't make this decision because Bill Gates suddenly grew a heart. They caved because they were forced to. Several investigations, independent and internal, were required, amidst unrelenting pressure from workers and organizers. As Assata Shakur, a legendary black revolutionary who died recently, once said, quote, "Nobody in the world, nobody in history, has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them." Similarly, Microsoft was never going to concede based on ethics or morality.
Okay, if he's
Microsoft's
not in
decision
debt,
is
he's
historic
gonna
in
be
that
now.
It represents the first known instance of a U.S. technology company withdrawing services provided to the Israeli military since the beginning of the genocide. But it's also insufficient.
Gotta keep
No
them
Azure
in
for
crippling
Apartheid
debt.
described this win as the first domino in a statement, renewing their call for, quote, "a worker intifada across all tech companies and all sectors to reclaim our labor and refuse to be cogs in the Israeli genocidal war machine." The decision to cut off Unit 8200 was the result of a full spectrum of resistance, from the BDS movement to fearless reporting to worker organizing to public awareness to mass protests to direct action to solidarity strikes to armed resistance to arms embargoes to monetary support and so much more. Also keep in mind, this was only one instance in a sea of overwhelming pressure applied across the globe to end the genocide. And although a ceasefire was supposedly reached, it's clear that Israel has no intent in letting up their genocidal campaign. As I hope part 1 of this video made clear, even if it went back to the pre-October 7 slow genocide, the fight for a free Palestine is nowhere near over. As much respect as I have for the No Tech for Apartheid movements,
taking
it's also
mass
worth
production
noting that
while
these issues
this
are often
video is
moral and
playing,
ethical
huh?
ones. And if we're talking about a full spectrum of resistance, I think there's something to be said about the need to speak to people in plain terms about the ways tech is affecting their economic and material reality. This, after all, is why the Luddite uprising was so fierce. There's no shortage of economics on our side, obviously. Data centers are driving up the cost of electricity, they are rapaciously stealing water from drought-ridden regions, they are producing noise pollution and causing severe health complications, AI is degrading and devaluing labor, and the gig economy is making work more precarious. Surveillance isn't just a moral atrocity and threat to democracy, it also allows companies to exploit you economically. What our job is as people who use these technologies is to stand up and scream, enough is enough. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that my last several videos have all centered technology. There are many reasons for this: my disgust with the manipulation of tech billionaires, the widespread damage they've inflicted, my own journey of rejecting certain technologies in favor of nature, but even I have often wondered what keeps me coming back to the topic again and again, when there are so many other things I could be talking about. And I think it's this: Silicon Valley is a microcosm. It is unconstrained capitalism in full force. Just like capital owners undemocratically implemented neoliberalism, entrepreneurs and executives have foisted their technologies of control upon the world, along with their vision of how they should be utilized. They've used the language of progress and innovation and individual achievement to sell politicians and the public on the utopian power of technology. They got obscenely wealthy from this pitch, and along the way we have truly seen a transformation in the way we communicate, learn, work, and live. But in the past year, they have gone fully mask off in favor of fascism and oligarchy. This is because they believe they are untouchable.
Might be
They
way
still use
bigger
the
than I
language of
thought.
utopia to justify the race towards AGI, and too many are dumb enough to fall for it.
Aid
but mostly,
request.
they just don't
Yeah,
think they
we'll
can be
vote
held
for
to
both
account.
of these.
And why would they? In 2018, Mark Zuckerberg
I'll
and
fucking
Facebook
crank
adjusted
out
their
Aid to
algorithm
get
to promote rage bait and incite
a
violence
shitload
and push
of
teen girls
Diplo
looking for
victory.
healthy recipes towards extreme dieting, all while rejecting internal proposals to curb negative effects that might harm engagement and growth.
It's
Did
gonna
you or
happen
Facebook
regardless.
face any
Yeah, I know,
consequences?
but I don't have to
Nope.
participate.
So,
Yeah,
it
you
becomes
can
our
just
job
save
to
your
make sure
Diplo
they
favor.
progress. As Eric McVeigh points out in a book that I have right here. Why did I put it on the bottom? Full spectrum resistance. Power concedes only when it has no other choice. People are fed up with technology as it currently exists. We realize that we've been conned, lied to, and exploited by billionaires worshipped for their reckless disruption. Technologies that should free us from tedium to bask in the beauty of our transient existence are instead freeing us from beauty to bask in tedium. People recognize this and are angry about it. The question becomes, what do we do about it? How can we create a better vision of our technological future? This question, I think, is best addressed in community with others. Sure, I can make suggestions, organize your workplace, reject technologies of control, explore open source non-algorithmic alternatives, touch grass, but ultimately, the one thing I've learned over the course of my life, and especially these last few years, is that solutions to systemic problems cannot be addressed individually. I recently attended an event called Shy Hack Night. It's a free weekly event here in Chicago aimed to build, share, and learn about tools to create, support, and serve the public good. People in the organization are building tools to make inroads on climate change, civic engagement, immigrant justice, and more. I found the event incredibly invigorating because it reminded me that people are thinking about these things, working on tangible alternative visions of technology that serve the people and not the ultra-wealthy.
We need to do whatever we can, to spend more time in spaces physically with one another, getting to trust and to sort of participate in political projects together. I cannot emphasize how important and how invigorating it is. I've been going to some rideshare drivers
Invigoron
here in LA, where there's a fight at the state level to earn rideshare gig workers the right to organize. They currently do not have it because of the state proposition that passed, Prop 22. This would claw it back. Being in these rooms with people willing to sort of show up and spend their Wednesday nights and Sunday afternoons, talking to each other, reaching out to each other, kind of fighting for each other. It's just kind of the basic
great
level
work.
principle of
I'll
organizing.
fucking take
we
that.
need to get out and do that.
Hell
work.
yeah.
In this spirit, I invite
He's
you
getting
to share
so
your
desperate
ideas
for
and comments in this
luxuries. He
video.
just traded
How
me
can
a
we
great work.
demodify our attention? How can we
I've got
create
him
spaces
so
for honest
wrecked with that
conversation, free from
that he's
rage-based
trading off
polarization and algorithmic
great
echo
works.
chambers? Are we going to need a Butlerian
Like,
genius
what? You're
after
gonna
all?
give
By the
me
way, the
more
irony of
culture,
asking these
sir?
questions on a monopolized and rapidly enshittifying platform is not lost on me. In fact, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with this channel and how
Like,
I
if
can
there
use
was
it to further the
commentators,
solutions I'm
they'd be
hoping to
talking
see.
about what a
I'm not quite ready to
disastrous
share
move
what
he
that will look
just
like
made.
right now, but I can tell you that I want to divest from the YouTube
Giving it to
ecosystem as
me,
much as
of
possible.
all
So if you want to
people.
support this mission, please consider subscribing to my Patreon. You can see all of the interviews in full,
How we
including the
doing
one with
now
Brian
in
Merchant
civics?
in this video. And
Still
I
behind.
have these
Just
custom
barely.
bookmarks made up. Hopefully it is
Just barely
focus.
behind in
They
civics,
have a
so I'm
quote
catching
from
up.
Dostoevsky on the back. I think they look
Saladin
pretty
has a
neat.
lot of
Got my
science.
logo. And there's also a quote from the Iron Giant. So yeah, while supplies last, anyone who signs up will get 2 of these for free if you live in the US, just because I can't afford to ship it anywhere else. Just be sure to email me your address when you sign up at thestorieswetell303@proton.me. And if you're already a paying subscriber on Patreon or Substack, please email me and I'll also send you one too. Sorry. Thank you so much to Brian Merchant for taking the time out
I
of his
got
busy
a
schedule to talk
great
with me.
admiral
I found the
that
conversation incredibly
allows
interesting
me
and
to
hopefully it
sail
added a lot to
across the ocean
the
before cartography. So I got a quadrimi.
I don't have his. I don't
or
have the cover on.
what quadrime?
But go get his book, Blood in the Machine.
Huh?
On the origins of the big tech.
Quadrian?
On the origins of the rebellion
Yes.
against big tech. Really fascinating. I barely scratched the surface really in this video. There's a ton of history that I didn't really get into, and all the different characters. I didn't talk about, like, Lord Byron was really involved, which was interesting. Alrighty. That's going to do it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. As always, peace and love, and I'll see you next time.
Right. That was very interesting.
So huge that it doesn't...
Okay, this is another very long video. Memes.
That's okay.
I like memes.
Memes. It's an image macro. It's a reaction GIF. It's a guy looking happy at something, and then looking sad at something else. It's Wojak or Feels Guy, expressing some indescribable feeling. It's Squidward, wistfully gazing out his window at SpongeBob and Patrick having fun. It's avant-garde, Dadaist, Italian brain rot. We all know what memes are. We see them on social media. We share them in group chats. We've probably seen thousands of them. Why do we do it? Why do we like them? Why do they seem so culturally powerful? Does meme magic exist? Well,
Yes.
to answer those questions, let's take a step back and talk about some similar cultural phenomena that came before the internet memes we know and love. Pre-internet memes, if you will. You glance at your friend's notebook in elementary school, and behold this, the cool S. It's the coolest thing you've ever seen. You ask him how he did it, and you watch him draw another. 6 parallel lines, connected together in a particular way. Simple enough. You soon start populating your notebook with this symbol. It's satisfying to do, and it rocks. Another kid catches you doing it, and asks the same
It's a
question.
unit of cultural
What is it?
exchange.
Where does it come from? Well, it doesn't seem to come from the Suzuki car logo, or the Superman symbol. The skate streetwear brand Stussy uses a similar thing occasionally, but they have stated that they did not originate the symbol. Well, it's easy to see where it came from. I've already told you. You saw your friend do it, and you copied him because it was cool. Your friend didn't make it up, though. He copied it from someone else. Why? Because it was cool. The structure of the drawing itself, its coolness, its simplicity to be copied, and the fact that it's satisfying to draw brought it into existence. There had to have been someone who did it first, but we'll never know who they are. We all know it because of those properties that led it to spread. The cool S is an example of child lore. It's a cultural practice that transmits from kid to kid naturally, without any adult interference. There are countless examples of this. Children play hand-clapping games, patty cake, baker's man. There are songs designed to select who is it in a game of tag. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe. There's strange superstitions. Step on a crack, break your mother's back. There are zingers and comebacks. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
I know you are, but what am I? Takes one to know one. Checkmate!
These verbal instances of child lore are catchy and easy to remember. They're rituals and folklore that spread far and wide culturally, beyond any specific group of
Devastating move by those
There are
barbarians.
behavioral instances too. Kids make paper airplanes. They make shadow puppets with their hands. They blow on a dandelion and make a wish. They type 5,318,008 on their calculators, revealing a naughty message when turned upside down. They will jokingly invite you to join the Pen 15 Club, deceptively tricking you into writing it on your notebook or on your hand, unknowingly writing the visual equivalent of the word penis. Devastating. These can get pretty elaborate too. Children will make fortune tellers, or as the kids I grew up with called them, cootie catchers, folding a sheet of paper like origami and decorating it with hidden messages that contain fortunes.
Vote for me.
For this
Actually, I'm
one,
gonna
we
vote
might
for
know
you
the
for
origin.
culture.
An
I
origami
can't vote for
historian
you.
managed
Suck
to trace
it.
it back to an
Yeah, you don't know me.
1876 German book for children. But this is rare. We usually have no idea where these sorts of things come from. They have just caught on over time, being passed from child to child over the course of generations, until they supplant themselves into the canon of child lore. An interesting example is the Batman parody of Jingle Bells. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost a wheel, and the Joker got away. If you grew up in the English-speaking world, you probably heard some variation of this. This has been sung for generations. If you're a 90s kid, you might imagine it came from The Simpsons.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg.
But it's been around much longer. You might notice that the lyrics in the Simpsons clip aren't the same one I sang earlier. There seems to be some regional variation to this rhyme. Why the variation? Well, to explain that, let's look at another instance of child lore.
Nice, Coupe's
broken
getting
telephone,
briefed.
or sometimes insensitively called Chinese whispers.
And you got the culture
A kid
bomb.
whispers
Nice.
something to another kid.
Yeah,
who then whispers
I
it to
spent a
another.
shitload of money
This
getting
continues
that.
over and over. And finally, the first and last message are compared. Often, when this happens, the message ends up being garbled up.
It was a
and changed.
perfect time for me
When
to
a piece
get
of
it 'cause I'm
information is
building
passed
districts.
along, there's always a chance that information is altered. It's kind of like a gene, foreshadowing. It's not just kids doing this sort of thing. Kilroy was here. A doodle depicting a little bald guy peering over a wall with a long nose drooping over. During World War II, this was found in warships, bathrooms, bridges, walls, and even painted on the shells of missiles. It was found all over the place, through France, Germany, the Pacific Theater, and more. It's rumored that even Stalin stumbled on one of these drawings and inquired with his aides who this strange Kilroy guy is. Another story describes
Hilarious.
Hitler finding one of these doodles and believing that it might be
Yeah,
some
doodle.
kind of code name of a high-level spy. Why did soldiers draw this? Well, like the cool S, it is satisfying and simple to draw, making it easy to spread around. It gives you something mildly fun to do, which seems appealing when you're at
That's
war.
great.
Even when the bullets are flying, you can still draw a little guy. But it also served as a major boost in morale. It became a beacon of camaraderie. When you and your companions manage to take an objective point, you scrawl Kilroy on a wall, as if to say, we've done it. When others pass by that location later, they'll know that friends were there. American author William Faulkner was quoted saying, "What matters is at the end of life, when you're about to pass into oblivion, that you've at least scratched Kilroy was here on the last wall of the universe." There are a few ideas about the origin, but it's largely urban legend.
Bro's
One
got a
suggestion
great
is
scientist
James
over
Kilroy,
here.
a rivet inspector during World War II in Massachusetts. Enormous quantities of ammo, planes, vehicles, and other war materials were being produced, and Kilroy was one of the guys making sure the rivets were good to go. The riveters were paid based on how many rivets they installed, and to prevent them from trying to cheat the system by erasing the inspection marks, Kilroy was here was written in durable crayon by the man himself. As warships were built, these marks were usually painted over, but with the urgency of the war effort, this didn't always happen. So the Kilroy marks would be seen by thousands of soldiers who sailed in the ships built there. The story goes that after seeing it enough times, it caught on, and the soldiers started to tag it everywhere. Another familiar symbol drawn everywhere is the humble smiley face. The origin is often attributed to Harvey Ball, the artist who drew the iconic yellow smiley face for a life insurance company in the 1960s. The company was looking for something to boost morale. They put it up all over the place, in posters and buttons, assuming that this technique would come off as wholesome rather than sinister. By the 70s, it started appearing on bumper stickers with the caption, "Have a nice day." In the 80s and 90s, it became an icon of rave culture, usually incorporating neon colors and a melting effect, to make partygoers peeking on Molly say, "Whoa, dude." And of course, once computers were around, we started making it with colons and parentheses, and eventually emojis were born. This is just the modern history, though. There's evidence of smiley faces going all the way back to this pot from 3,700 years ago in Turkey. It's obvious why this has been so enduring. As I've explained in another video, humans are very interested in faces, and this abstract depiction is one of the easiest things to draw. Andre the Giant has a posse. There's some interesting lore with this one. Andre the Giant, the guy from Princess Bride in the WWF, was truly giant, but he had another strange legacy. In the 80s and 90s, stickers with his face started appearing on poles, walls, and sidewalks across the US with the message, "Andre the Giant has a posse." Why?
What the fuck?
It seems kind of weird. Well, in 1989, two students...
Do you think he's gonna touch on the art world and like the Banksy's, like the Obey thing?
Just let him talk. Isn't that this
I'm
guy?
Very interested. Don't know.
At the Rhode Island School of Design, Shepard Fairey and Ryan Lesser
Shepard Fairey
were messing
is
around
the
with
guy.
stenciling tech.
Is the Obey guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was the one who did that. So he's gonna totally tell you Shepard Fairey is the guy who did that Andre thing.
Techniques, and decided to stick this design all over Rhode Island as a bit. If you haven't heard of Shepard Fairey, by the way, you might recognize some of his other work. Over time, with this image everywhere, it picked up some steam in the skater community, who started spreading it around, shitposting on public surfaces. But unfortunately for Shepard, Ryan, and the culture in general, Andre the Giant actually did have a posse. It turned out that Andre the Giant was a copyrighted phrase, and there were a bunch of lawyers happy to hand out cease and desist orders to stop making the stickers. They decided to stop making the stickers, but they still stuck it to the man. They created another image with a more stylized close-up of Andre's face, ditching the original caption with the copyrighted name, and only using the word obey, a fitting reference to the cult movie They Live from the 80s. When the main character puts on a pair of special glasses, he sees all the corporate advertising around him for what it is, messages to obey and consume. The Obey logo went on to become an enormous streetwear brand. The meme lives on. Now, this one had a pretty interesting origin story, but for the most part, we're often not sure exactly where these things come from. And frankly, who cares? There are loads of articles speculating about the origins of them. But even if we did track down the first guy who came up with Jingle Bells Batman smells, cootie catchers, paper airplanes, or Kilroy was here, what then? These aren't like scientific discoveries or academic insights where citations are important. They're not even like art pieces or inventions where the original creator would want some kind of credit etched into history. They're things that spread because they're good at spreading. It's the spreading that's important, not the origin. Everything I've described in this video so far can be characterized as a meme. The term originally came from the legendary biologist and atheist Jesus Richard Dawkins. He wrote The
Yeah.
Selfish Gene,
So
where
what?
he argued that biologists should
Yeah.
understand evolution in terms of competition between genes. A gene's eye view of evolution, having the types of traits
got a
that make it
trebuchet
more
out
likely
here in
those
the ocean.
individual genes will be passed on. They have higher replication power. In biology, successful genes are those that result in traits or behaviors that are more likely to spread. These are things like hunger or thirst to keep the organism alive long enough to have offspring, or a sex drive to actually do the deed. The emphasis has shifted from the whole organism surviving, or the whole species surviving, to the low-level genes trying to replicate themselves. In the book, Dawkins also briefly proposes a new, uniquely human replicator, memes, units of cultural meaning or information that spread between human brains. He gives examples like
that's-
catchphrases,
that's where the definition
trendy
comes
styles
from.
of clothing, rituals, and technologies.
I like ours.
The
Unit
idea
of
is that
cultural
this sort of replicator works in a sort of similar way to genes.
Means the
in
same-
the
it's
same
just
way that
the
our bodies
same way,
are just vessels
different
to spread
phrase.
genes. Our minds are
same
just
thing.
vessels to spread memes. The examples of pre-internet memes in this video are all different kinds of behaviors, iconography, motifs, slogans, and jokes that have caught on and spread from human mind to human mind, taking on a life of their own. The theory of memes has been expanded on a lot since Dawkins by a lot of theorists, including Susan Blackmore in her book The Meme Machine. Memes spread via imitation.
Meme
We've all
machine?
heard the Happy Birthday song
Meme
1,000
machine.
times. We grew
I'm a
up hearing people
motherfucking
sing it
meme
every year on our
machine.
birthday, and on everyone else's birthday. Through that, we learned the instructions for how to sing that song, and we started to imitate it. It's easy to see how this process applies to the examples I've covered. You see something that begs to be imitated, and then you imitate it. But the traditional view of memes is larger. It's not just icons or slogans. It's entire ideas, philosophies, or ways of doing things. Anything that can be imitated and spread between humans is a meme. You could say that agriculture is a meme, because even though it fundamentally transformed human life, it's still just an idea that passed from person to person until it caught on. Memes are also value neutral. There are good memes, like life-saving technology, or bad memes, like multi-level marketing, sell knife sets door-to-door, be your own boss, and recruit all your high school acquaintances by sending them unsolicited messages on Facebook. She also describes everything from UFO encounters, alternative medicine, divination and fortune-telling, and even religion as memeplexes, a group of memes that replicate together. Now, I'm not here to discount religion. Even as an atheist, that's not my bag. Whether religion is true or false, it's obvious that they fit with this definition of memes. They're a collection of ideas,
There's a white
behaviors,
border here, this
iconography,
might be you.
and so on, which have been passed from human to
Where are
human,
you?
from generation to generation.
I'm coming.
Religion is a meme,
Where's the white border?
but it's
Show
a
me.
pretty successful one.
Oh,
The
hang
insight
on.
of memes
I got
is a new
Yeah,
kind
other
of
things I
put it
gotta
on the
do.
main screen.
operating through us, but not necessarily
One
by
second.
us, is a really useful idea for understanding meme culture right now. Humans have been memeing for a really long time. We can objectively trace memetic behavior all the way back to Paleolithic cave art. Iconography can be found across hundreds of caves in southern France, northern Spain, and a number of other sites around the world, spanning every continent. Art in the Chauvet Cave has been dated all the way back to 32,000 years ago. There are drawings of horses, lions, rhinoceroses, bison, and other fauna. Most ancient cave drawings seem to be mostly animals and sometimes abstract figures. Strangely, only around 4% of them depict human beings. We know very little about the creation of these artworks. They were made by humans a lot like us physiologically, but living in hunter-gatherer
There.
societies
Got
that
rid of those
migrated from
fucking
Africa.
barbarians.
We know they must have developed techniques of painting with charcoal and ochre pigment, but we don't know why. Maybe it was some kind of ritual associated with hunting magic, a proto-meme magic situation. Structuralist theories have pointed out that the horse and the bison are the two most common figures, so maybe those are representing some binary between male and female or something, like the Wojak meme, but depicting femininity and masculinity through metaphor rather than archetype. We can only guess why they did it, but we know they're there. These behaviors are fundamentally memetic. It's a
This is
culture
the
that's
white border
spread
here.
with people likely imitating each other's techniques and behaviors. The cave art meme is the earliest analog to what we understand as internet
You got
memes
this
today.
Wonder the Oracle?
But we're not using ochre anymore.
Hey, it might
the
tell
way
me.
humans have been memeing
Yes,
have been
it is
changing
you.
through
Yeah,
mimetic
that is me,
selection
yeah.
itself. The ancient
That's the very
Sumerians and
edge of my city.
Egyptians
Wait, show me
started
the
writing
map.
things down a while back,
Hang on.
around 5,000 years ago. The writing meme was
What's to
pretty
the
great
left?
for memes themselves, because they
Of
could
you?
last
To
a
the
lot
left.
longer than humans
Nothing to the
remembering
left.
spoken
Beautiful.
language.
That's where I'm putting my city.
The
then.
printing press, sometime later, accelerated this.
Can I get out
and
from the
eventually
top,
memes
or am I
spread
stuck?
far and wide in books. Later,
don't know,
with
I'd have to
railways,
see.
roads, and ships,
Looks
we
like
could
I'm
start
skipping
carrying
Navy and
letters
going straight
containing
to,
memes
Yeah, it's
across
Pangea
vast
anyway, you don't
distances,
need
putting
Navy.
more people in contact and increasing the size of
The
the
only
meme pool.
I've
Then
only
the
built
telegraph,
a few Navy
the telephone,
ships.
the radio, and the
And
television.
it was just to deal with
continued our
barbarians
quest
who were on
to
the
spread
coast.
memes faster, more accurately, and longer lasting. Those three characteristics
That's why the
also
only great
map onto
admiral I
Dawkins'
ended up
description
taking
of
was the
what
one
makes
to
a
give
good
me
replicator.
ocean tile access,
Fecundity,
and I'm sailing
fidelity, and
a
longevity.
tier 1 ship across
In a lot of ways,
the ocean.
memes do seem to be working sort of like genes, and we've been a very useful vessel. Virtually all media and communication technology can be described as a vehicle for memes. You could say that we drove these innovations because they improved our lives, but you could also make the case that memes drove these innovations because they allowed them to replicate much more effectively. Finally, that brings us to the internet, one of the biggest things to happen to memes. The internet is obviously a big deal in general, connecting us all together and simultaneously nuking our attention spans and ruining our mental health. It's how I'm talking to you right now. Hello. But it also fundamentally
Hi.
changed the ordinary definition of a meme. It's no longer a niche theory of cultural evolution. It's a term we're all familiar with. Memes are synonymous with the internet. The pre-internet memes I described at the beginning of this video occasionally had some discernible origin or author, like Kilroy or Obey. But internet memes are totally different. They're closer to child lore, like the cool S. They spread informally and mutate over time. There's no ownership over memes. The question, who made this meme, is never asked or cared about. The circulators and shitposters are equally as important as the original authors. Internet memes contain memes in the traditional sense, but they're structured and shared in a completely new way. Lemore Schiefman, in Memes and Digital Culture, argues that an internet meme has three main characteristics. The form, the format or template of the meme, often repurposed from somewhere else, or part of an existing trend. Schiefman uses some pretty dated examples, so let's consider the NPC meme. The form is derived from Wojak memes, and often fits in a reaction comic template. There's also the content, which is the theme or idea of the meme. The NPC's content is dehumanization, characterizing some category of people as pre-programmed
As soon as
drones.
Osaka rebels, I'm pretty
And
much
finally,
gonna get
there's
it
the
back.
stance, the attitude encoded in the meme. This can vary. MAGA conservatives might be depicting leftists as NPCs for wearing masks during COVID, or leftists might be depicting MAGA conservatives as NPCs for blindly defending whatever insane thing Trump has most recently said. Now we have the tools to start analyzing memes. The form of a meme can almost always be boiled down into very basic conceptual structures.
Coupe?
There are an incredible amount of memes that present a decision.
Nothing.
between
I'm
two
just
things.
declaring a surprise
The
war
simplest
against
is
him.
the guy looking happy
Thanks
about
for that
one
settler.
and disappointed about another. The Drake
I
meme
guess it
does the same
disappeared.
thing. And
I
these
can't
are pretty
capture it
cut
on
and
the
dry.
ocean.
This thing good, this other thing bad.
not how it works.
Extracting the content
Where'd it
and
go,
the
then?
stance of the meme is trivial,
Don't know.
but some communicate more nuance. The distracted boyfriend meme presents one thing, the girlfriend, as the socially correct option, but the protagonist is tempted by the other girl, the incorrect option, while he's reprimanded by the authority figure. The Winnie the Pooh meme presents one option as boring, and the other is better, but with an air of pretentiousness and elitism. The guy panicking over two buttons makes no value judgment about the correctness of each option, and is
Coupe's
presenting
got a
them as a
pretty strong
difficult
military.
choice.
Do you want me to
The
join in?
character at the fork in the road is standing looking at one option, which is obviously good,
I could take two
and
builders
another
right
which is
away.
obviously bad. The sad guy and the happy guy on the bus is not a decision of action, but of attitude. The scenario is the same, but the internal interpretation or feelings are contrasted. Many meme forms also act as ways of communicating specific psychological states associated with ideas. Feeling held back, feeling despondent, feeling morbid,
I
feeling
only
embarrassed,
did it
feeling
to grab the
excited,
settler.
feeling
He
insane.
can't
or
reach me. He's on
conspiratorial.
the other side of the
Some
world.
communicate more complex human experiences.
That's pretty
The
funny.
bike fall meme
Actually,
depicts self-sabotage.
if that's the case, then stay
The
at war
thinking
with
about other women meme simultaneously
Well, I don't
taps
want it
into
to
jealousy
end up mobilizing.
and incorrect theory of mind, because the man is always depicted thinking about something completely
Yay,
different.
Dark Age.
The "is this a pigeon?"
I got a
meme
heroic age.
communicates a failure of correct categorization, which is implicitly an act of categorization. The "they don't know" meme depicts not only social alienation, but
I'm gonna
also
fucking
often
put a nuclear
portrays the
power
other
plant next to a
partygoers as
volcano
open
just
and
to see what
accepting,
happens.
while the alienated Wojak is completely avoidant. The domino effect meme communicates the idea of small events eventually cascading into enormous consequences. We also have memes organizing larger quantities of related ideas into levels of gradation. This is very familiar to viewers of this channel. The tier list ranks things based on how they compete with other things in some similar category. The iceberg ranks things based on how esoteric or dark they are. The bracket, similar to the tier list, ranks things by pitting them against each other in a sequence of 1v1s. The political compass arranges even the most apolitical concepts on the left, right, and libertarian authoritarian axis. We also have the brain expanding meme, positioning things from dumb to smart to enlightened. And the Vince McMahon reaction, organizing from mild amusement to enormous excitement. It might be excruciating hearing the structure of all these memes described like this, because you probably already understand them at a glance. Interpreting memes comes so naturally to us, and we're able to do it remarkably quickly. We've seen a lot of the forms repeated before, which makes them familiar and easy to interpret. But even with a novel form, we intuitively understand the psychological state or abstract conceptual pattern it depicts, and impose that structure on the content of the meme, extracting the stance. Memes include a lot of different information: text, images, videos. They riff on other media or other memes, requiring you to pick up on that intertextuality to fully understand them. It's a language of collage, and requires careful interpretation to understand.
Salads.
This all sounds very silly, but consider memes from other cultures. Without the background knowledge and context, they're almost indecipherable to us. That makes sense, because we're not supposed to understand them. We're out-group. Memes serve a lot of important social functions. They're shorthand for shared knowledge, making it faster and easier to communicate ideas.
Hey, how's these
We
age
can
requests
engage
go? Nobody
with
has
ideas
sent
or
aid.
current events extremely
Shaka sent
cheaply
aid to
and
one.
playfully. Making a meme is a lot easier than writing
Let me
a
pop
think
some
piece,
aid real
and
quick.
sharing an existing meme is even easier. Internet memes are an entirely new way of talking.
Images can be used like words. We can talk with them.
Memes are also weirdly powerful social bonding tools, drawing a line in the sand between the in-group and the out-group. If you get the meme I shared about some obscure band, that signals you're culturally similar to me. Not understanding a meme is alienating. It's tapping into a very deep type of anxiety that we evolved to feel when we don't feel welcome in a community. It's like when you walk into a room and all your friends are laughing, and you're just standing there not knowing what was so funny. But on the flip side, getting the meme is an enormously effective tool for feeling connected. This isn't real connection, obviously. You almost never personally know the meme maker, or any of the other people who interacted with it. But that feeling of belonging still triggers, because successful interpretation of a niche meme affirms your shared identity as a member of some in-group.
Where'd
We
that
like
settler
memes
go?
Not just because they're funny or relatable.
That's
But
bullshit.
because the process of getting it is inherently satisfying
Got
to our
fucking
pro-social
100
monkey
grievances
brains.
for nothing.
The so-called lost
Damn.
meme is
People
probably
really
the most
want
cryptic
Kashmir.
meme
They're
to
giving
ever
me
exist.
so much gold.
It originates from a webcomic series called Control-Alt-Delete. The
I just
series
got like
generally
50
involved
gold
video
per turn
game
for
humor
selling my
and
3 extra
standard
Kashmir.
random XD wacky punchlines that fit internet
What in the
culture.
fuck?
But in
I should
2008,
check my
there was an
luxuries, huh?
absolutely
Oh, I don't have extras
mind-boggling
right now.
tonal departure from this. In this comic,
get some
there is no dialogue.
real quick.
It's just a man rushing into a hospital, talking to a receptionist and doctor, and
No, I
then
won't.
looking down at his crying wife. It's an absolutely harrowing portrayal of a miscarriage.
See, like,
Because of the hilarious incongruence here, this led to a
prioritized-
long series of
I was
parodies
behind.
and
I
remixes,
prioritized
eventually culminating into a
building
completely
and
abstract
improving tiles
representation of the
on
comic's
these
visual
two
structure.
lower
The
civilizations,
meme
and now
now
we have
continues in its
higher
minimal
population
form, often deliberately hidden in other
than, like, pretty
contexts.
much anything around
This
me.
prompts
that's
the
struggling
inevitable
right
question,
now is the one
is this
that has
lost?
a fuckload
Which
of
has
desert
become
tiles.
a meme in itself. The meme demands a
Build
keen eye
Petra.
to pick up on this minimal
already have.
structure, which is probably the
Good.
most exaggerated
Because
example of
Salahuddin
establishing
will
an
go
in-group.
for it too, because he gets
Shitposting
desert.
is a performance.
I built it way
Sharing a
early.
meme is a way of signaling your identity, your
I mean, it was
stance on
still
some
available for
topic,
me not that
and the
long ago.
community you're a part of.
I completed it
Interpreting
maybe
a
10
meme
turns
is a
ago.
test. If you understand it, you're invited to the club. This
Does it
may
apply
sound
for
like
the
an
whole Civ?
exaggeration,
Like
but it's an
does
accurate
it for the
metaphor.
whole
If
Civ?
there's a
What's
mod
happening
enabled, then
psychologically.
yes, but I'm not sure if
The
it
nature
is.
of memes has also changed the way we communicate publicly. A lot of the memes I've covered already are expressing things that we often don't with language. They're emotions or experiences that are too embarrassing or too weirdly
I want to
specific.
lose units as
Not
well.
only would they be harder and slower to
they
communicate
cost
with
gold,
language,
and I
but they
get
would also
culture
be
for
too
producing
vulnerable.
units, so I'd rather
Memes
produce
allow
them
us
when
to
I need
communicate
them
these things efficiently, and also make it socially
and not
permissible.
produce them ahead.
As we know, memes are effectively anonymous. We don't know who made them. We only share them. The stakes
Nope.
of sharing a meme are so low that it becomes safe to express things that we wouldn't express otherwise. It's socially risky to express feelings of alienation, frustration, indecision, impatience, jealousy, and self-sabotage. It's comparatively difficult to record a video, write a tweet, or even tell a friend about these feelings and experiences. But a meme that already exists reassures you
Osaka
that
is
you're not
mine
alone
again.
in this experience, and gives you social
you
permission
will forever
to
be
join
mine.
in and share it. Many of these meme forms, by their very nature, repeatedly subvert expectations. The fully enlightened entry on the expanding brain meme and the final layer on the iceberg are almost always jokes. Let's talk about irony. Anyone well-versed in meme culture knows that there's a pervasive, detached, ironic ethos. Memes lend themselves to irony because of their layered structure of meaning. With form, content, and attitude to play around with, it's common to combine them in ways that are intentionally incongruent. This has become the default for most subcultures online. But as meme culture has accelerated, and irony has become commonplace, the hunger for subversion continues. That's how we get post-irony and meta-irony. In 2016, Seong Young-her developed this now famous quadrant model of irony. About 5 years ago, it was later popularized
So, like, if you
by
have
friend of the
marshes
channel J-Ray.
and you destroy them,
the general idea
you'll basically
is that
get
as
plus
irony
one
became the
population
standard,
right away.
people started to express sincere expressions in an ironic framing, looping back in on itself and returning to sincerity. That's post-irony. Since the current memescape is dominated by irony, it's now common to express genuine feelings using irony as a wrapper to preserve that playful tone and save face with the in-group.
Somehow in our social existence today, we're only allowed to express our feelings weirdly and indirectly. If you express them directly, everybody goes crazy.
Meta-irony takes this even further. It's unclear whether the message is ironic or sincere. It's absurdist communication, collapsing any discernible meaning and disregarding truth entirely. It resists stable interpretation and devolves into
Scotland's
just
way
evoking
ahead
a
in
concept
science.
with no attitude towards
He's in
it.
the modern
There's
era.
a very
He could
old
potentially be
internet
getting
adage
oil.
that's apt here. Poe's law. When you're communicating on the internet, where there are no clear indicators of intent, like
I'm gonna go
tone
for
of voice
coal.
or body language, it's difficult or impossible to distinguish between something being said sincerely and something being said ironically. The postmodern author David Foster Wallace talked a lot about irony poisoning pre-internet. The sort of thing we're experiencing now with internet memes was already happening. TV shows and advertising were already becoming self-aware and winking at the audience. The subversive structure of irony was becoming the status quo. On one level, irony is a good tool. It can reveal contradictions in our thinking and point out the absurdity of things we take for granted. But it's not an edifying force. Someone drenched in irony is always cool and detached, a level above everyone else, smirking down at them. It's an appealing place to be, because being earnest, sincere, and honest is vulnerable. You run the terrifying risk of being cringe, and you don't want that. The prevalence of post-ironic
Are there any
memes is an
city-states you're
pushback
competing
against
for?
This. They're using the language of irony
right now?
to signal that they're
Yes.
still in group,
Maybe
but they're ultimately
my,
expressing
but
authenticity.
maybe not.
Now,
I'm
meta-irony
are you in the lead?
lack authenticity entirely.
I have no idea.
It's expression without
Okay.
accountability. Because you
I
can
could
always
get rid of the
backpedal
top
and
three.
just say you were being
I can kill
ironic.
3 envoys.
This allows people to test out
Any place
opinions
you
and
want
attitudes publicly
to have
in a
advantage
safe
over.
way, dodging
I can
any
kill 3 envoys
responsibility.
for you.
Figures
Okay,
like
well,
Sam
just
Hyde
hold on.
use comedy
You
and
can't be
irony
the top, though, 'cause
to
then I'll kill
introduce
your
straight
envoy.
up white
I don't know if
nationalist
I'm the
talking
top.
points to his audience and
How do I
steer
check?
towards radicalization. Since he's
There's
a
a little
comedian
dome
drenched
in the
irony,
top right.
people
It's like
might
a
hear him
Capitol
say something
dome,
crazy
US
and
Capitol
think, wow,
dome.
there's no way he's being serious
The
about
top
that.
right.
But he often is.
Yeah,
And
I'm
his
looking
recent
at it.
behavior online has indicated
Okay,
that he
if you
does
click it, it
genuinely
should tell you the
hold some
city-states.
pretty heinous views.
Yeah. I've
This
only
And
got
then how
leads
many-
to the interesting
You only have
interaction
2 what?
between memes and politics.
City-states.
Now
My
that
and
the internet
Valerie.
is mainstream, the political game
But you're the
is being
Caesarean
played
of them?
largely in the meme
No.
scape.
Oh,
The
okay.
notion
so.
of meme magic is an
Okay.
idea that rose to prominence in
I
2016.
can look to see if you
about
are
how
anyway.
memes have some esoteric, otherworldly power
I'm gonna
to
do
affect real-life outcomes.
Kadesh.
People argued
Take
that
out
meme magic,
Salahuddin here.
wielded by the shit posters on 4chan, was what got Donald Trump elected back in 2016. The Pepe meme, praise Keck, and so on. At the time, this was said in a tongue-in-cheek way, but memes have increasingly become a driving force in politics. Hell, it's why Elon bought Twitter. He knew that he who controls the memes controls the future. He
Controls
influenced the
the
creation
memes
of
of
the Department
protection.
of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, under the second Trump administration, which is named after a meme. It's a pretty old, unfunny meme that
Which is
mostly
cringe.
shows he's out of touch, but it is a meme nonetheless. The official White House Twitter account regularly communicates talking points through meme formats. Advertisers have jumped on this too, albeit after a few false starts, and they're
Punch the
often the
cunts
last
in
to
the
integrate
head.
anything relevant in the culture. In the internet age, memes are the way of communicating. It's the new language of propaganda and broadcasting. So that's how we got here. We're natural imitators, constantly communicating ideas and sharing concepts with each other. We have a fundamental drive to do this, and we've been doing it long before the internet came along. It's just gotten faster and more convenient than ever. Our agency with all of this is pretty limited. In a lot of ways, the culture follows the memes, rather than the other way around. We can't single-handedly change meme culture, but our shitposting still holds power. We can eschew irony poisoning. We can take up arms in the great meme wars, and hilariously, do actual political action with images on the internet.
Yes,
we can
you
post
can.
memes that are beautiful and true. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support more content like this, check out my Patreon.
That was pretty good. Oh,
been arrested in Bali and is looking at 50. Bonnie Blue has been arrested in Bali and is looking at 15 years in prison. Bonnie was apprehended by Balinese police after she drove schoolies kids around in her bang bus. Could be worse, she could have been driving a tuk-tuk, or in her case, a gluck-gluck. 15 Australian men were also arrested with Bonnie. Not the first time Aussies have been stitched up by a ladyboy in a Balinese hotel. Also, not the first white girl with blue eyes to stuff something wrapped in plastic in a country that'll arrest you for posting it. That's a great joke. I'm Lewis Spears. Like and follow. Talk tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm literally editing this video right now and news just dropped that Bonnie Blue has been told to leave Bali. She's getting deported. So this is a developing situation. In this video, I'm going to cover everything up to this point. We don't know what's happening to the other 15 men right now, but I just found out that Bonnie's being deported from Bali. But a lot more than that has happened, so check this out.
If you're not from Australia, schoolies is currently happening, so most of these kids are probably like 17 to 18 years old on their first overseas trip, and they're going to have to make a very embarrassing phone call back home to mum and dad. Mum, Dad, I've been arrested in Bali. What did you do? Did they catch you with a little bit of weed? No, I've been... I was gangbanging Bonnie Blue and I've been arrested and now I'm getting deported. This is not a good story to tell the family just before Christmas, is it? Bonnie Blue and I have a bit of a history. Hello?
Hey, Lewis Fairs. I heard you was doing a video on me, but I think you're just jealous because the lines to bonk me are longer than the lines for your comedy shows. When you come to the UK, be careful because I will be watching, and at least my chin is real.
Damn, a direct line to
Amazing.
Bonnie Blue? I feel like I just bought a Disney Fast Pass. You know what's really frustrating about this is when I was touring the UK, Bonnie and I were trying to organise dates to get in the same room so we could do a podcast, but she said, oh, I'm really busy doing something much more important, and now she's in prison. That's what you get, Bonnie. That's what happens when you don't go on the Spearhead Sundays podcast. I get my Balinese agents on you. Not my Balinese Asians, my Balinese government agents to arrest you as punishment. Not that Bonnie seems to dislike being in prison. Do not search Bonnie Blue prison on Twitter. It's horrific. This is a developing story, but as an Australian, I know a lot about what happens when you get in trouble in Bali or in Thailand. These are countries that Australians frequently get arrested in and get deported. So this has happened to Bonnie Blue. This is a more severe thing. Let's have a look at the news. Porn star Bonnie Blue faces up to 15 years in jail after being detained over bang bus stunt in Bali. And Bonnie was not the only person that got arrested. Her hotel or wherever she was staying got raided by the Balinese police after some locals or maybe even some foreigners reported her to the government there. And 15 Australians got arrested with her. Have a look at this footage of them coming out of the house. Very confused by this gentleman who is intent on covering his face to keep his anonymity, but is also recording everyone else for, I don't know, the Snapchat story. What is this guy doing? He can't decide whether or not he wants to go viral for this. I've never seen someone protect their own anonymity while also selfie recording to post on social media. Gen Z is cooked. They can't decide if they want to go viral or remain private citizens, even as they get arrested for running a train on Bonnie Blue in a foreign country. What the fuck are you doing?
Scoot over, make some room inside.
Scoot over, make some room inside. Something tells me that after a night with Bonnie Blue, that's not the first time these gentlemen heard that sentence. I suppose the perks of queuing up to see Bonnie Blue is that you bring your own balaclava to secure your anonymity, because you may need to do so when you get arrested in a Muslim country for violating their pornography laws. If you don't know, Indonesia is a super strict country. Bali is a little bit of the Wild West, but not if you are openly and brazenly on social media violating their laws for clout. They do not fuck around. As an Australian, I'm not surprised at all that she was arrested there for doing pornography. They don't play games in Indonesia, especially not with uppity tourists that like to stoke controversy. They let it run.
When he said
in the tourist areas of Bali, there's a bit of
building was raided, all I was thinking about was Raid Redemption.
Fuck off, Kickbot. What?
Spoken, you know, don't rock the boat and we won't arrest you for doing certain things. But when you get caught, they are real serious and they love to make an example of people. Police in Bali are yet to release additional information following the arrest of Bonnie Blue and 17 male tourists, including 15 Australians. If prosecuted and found guilty under the law, Blue faces up to 15 years imprisonment in Indonesia and fines up to $6 billion rupiah, which is approximately $500,000. Even for someone like Bonnie Blue, that is a lot of money. And I think, look, I don't see her getting locked up for this. Bali, Indonesia, their economy really relies on tourism, and it is bad press for them to be locking up foreigners who break rules that are perfectly fine in Western nations. Like, they really only lock up foreign tourists for committing violent acts and drug offenses. Everything else, they kind of just go with deportation. But this is such a high-profile case, and there will be a lot of outrage in Indonesia and in Bali over this, that they might make an example of her. I really hope they don't, but I wouldn't be that surprised if they do. A large cache of items, including professional video cameras, mountains of contraceptives, and erectile drugs. A small blue ute with the words Bonnie Blue's Bang Bus painted across the front and side, in addition to the content creator's own Instagram account, in which she can be seen soliciting schoolies, teenagers over the age of 18 for pornographic activities, was seized by police in Bali. God, could you imagine having possession of Bonnie Blue's Instagram account? Imagine the DMs. You would be, I'd be in the office of the police station with the boys scrolling through the DMs being like, dude, I cannot believe this celebrity is in there. Holy shit, I cannot believe this woman's husband is in there. How exciting would that be? Come to think of it, looking at my DMs with Bonnie Blue, I did remember thinking a few days ago, oh, normally they respond faster than that. Didn't know they were locked up in a foreign prison. Oh, well, you know, that's a pretty good excuse for not responding to messages. Sorry, I'm locked in a foreign prison. I couldn't get back to your messages. That's awesome. Maybe a police officer will start sending me selfies soon. How exciting. Let's have a look at some of the noise that Bonnie Blue was making in Bali before she was arrested with all of the schoolies' kids. So she's all over Snapchat taking photos with other people that have just finished high school, and it seems like she's doing promotion for her OnlyFans. I wonder if she was actually creating content there. I assume that she was, but she has not officially been charged just yet. She's been arrested on suspicion of creating that sort of pornographic content, but who knows if she actually was. Maybe she's smart enough to just do this stunt to get deported to advertise her whole platform, because as we know, she's a brilliant outrage marketer, and this is just one extra step down that road of getting as much controversy as possible to get as many eyeballs as possible on what you're doing. But this is a big gamble to take. Getting arrested in a Muslim country as a sex worker, you've got to be shaken in your G-string just a little bit. And look, this type of stuff is exactly what Bonnie Blue wants. Well, maybe not exactly. I'm not sure she would want to be arrested, but I'm fairly confident she's just going to get deported for this. And that's essentially what every legal expert in Bali has said about this case, is that they don't really want to imprison foreigners for this type of stuff because it is very bad publicity for the country. It scares people away from going there, even if they're not planning on engaging in making pornographic content. It's just not a good look for international tourism when you start arresting foreigners for behavior that is completely legal and not even that looked down upon in their country. So it's not good business sense to imprison 17 people over this stuff. They're much better off just deporting them because it makes the message clear that it's not okay without, you know, costing them potentially millions in tourism money. Now, of course, because Australians have also been locked up, let's have a look at what our news has been saying about them.
A group of Australian men has been dragged before Bali immigration officers. They're under investigation after being arrested alongside adult content creator Bonnie Blue.
I don't think I've ever heard more judgment in a newscast.
I love that we're saying adult content creator now.
Bonnie Blue's name. Adult content creator Bonnie Blue. This man just called her a whore without even saying the words.
The tourists have been released, but officials still have their passports.
Heads covered and maybe in the sand about the trouble they could be in. 14 Aussies called before immigration officers near Kuta for questioning today after arrests on Friday alongside British adult actress Bonnie Blue.
Free my girl Bonnie. She's providing an essential service in Bali, and that is transporting drunken schoolies kids from the bar to the ping pong show. This is very important work. She's not even charging them. I mean, this is a public good. She's making sure these kids get to their hotels and their bars safely without getting ripped off by you know, a local just trying to earn a living and feed his family. Ugh, yuck. Do you reckon they haggled with her?
The Australians were released later on Friday, but remain in Bali with their passports confiscated. They range in age from 19 to 40.
Bang bus is broken down.
Pornography is outlawed in Indonesia. It's not clear if the Australians, who can likely expect to be booted from the country, may also face charges.
I don't know where she goes from here. Maybe she goes to an even more Muslim nation like Saudi Arabia and does a bang bust there. But then you're kind of running the risk of returning home headless. Maybe she could infiltrate North Korea, you know, and show them what a train looks like. They're like, oh my goodness, that's pretty good exciting. I would like to see that. I think there's a lot of avenues for Bonnie Blue, but I don't know how she's going to top this one. Maybe she could travel to the front lines of Ukraine and we could all witness on Twitter the first ever gangbang recorded via a drone that promptly explodes.
That's the thing. Is like there's certain
Honestly,
jokes
I think
that I
if Bonnie
think are like the structure and design are so well executed, but then I just don't laugh. So I just have to still acknowledge that it's a good joke, even though
A good joke,
laugh.
yeah.
What
He
are the
really wants
samurai
eyeballs.
replace
What she needs
swordsmen?
to do is just
Who is
convert
this fucking
to
city? Is that a
any
city-state?
religion and just really strictly follow it for like 18
purple-
months. Could you
who's the
imagine the
purple
views?
city-state?
I would love to see Bonnie Blue in a burqa. You
tell
know,
me.
burqa blue, it'd be great. Okay, this news article just dropped as I was recording this video.
Okay.
Bonnie Blue's
new plan.
snitch
Can you
in
still
Bali
get rid of
explains why they ratted
envoys?
out the
Because I
British
wanna go
sex
to this
worker to
purple one,
police.
'cause I'm
So
gonna
we've
put a
got
city on
the
this coast
person
here.
I can
who
later.
reported her to the
I need more
authorities.
spies.
This is the problem with this controversy stuff. You never know who you're pissing off.
My
and
current spy's
who
already
will,
on a mission in
try to
Kadash.
stop you doing what you're doing.
But
So,
I need to. I'm
have a
going to
look
be
at this
producing
article.
spies
We've got
soon.
the person who has gone to the news to say they were the ones that actually ratted her out. This is a quote from them. The way we tracked her was not particularly complicated. We just followed her through her gangbang.
A volcano,
said the individual, an expat based in Bali who spoke on condition of anonymity. But the cops at first, they couldn't even understand what was happening. We had to explain it to them that there are about 20 guys and Bonnie. They just could not comprehend it. Yeah, trying to explain to the authorities in a country that is 80%
Fuck yeah.
Muslim.
I'm winning the aid
this is a
request.
white lady doing
Everyone else has
gangbangs on
200.
camera
I
with
did
tourists in a hotel room.
1,400.
I mean, not even
Take
not
that.
even Allah could comprehend something this haram. So we explained to them that she's driving around in the gangbang bus and that she was bragging about sleeping with schoolies, some of whom were barely legal, and that footage was going to go worldwide afterwards. They confirmed that the activity was illegal and took action. Then they sent in undercover agents and booked them. How long were the undercover agents in that hotel room? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I'm going to go in undercover for this one. Do you need to? Do you really need to go in undercover for this one, Steve? Or do you just want to have a couple of pumps and then arrest her? Do you know what I mean? Imagine that, you know, you're halfway through a take, you put the handcuffs on her, she's like, ooh, kinky, and then you pull out your badge. I don't think this was an undercover mission. I think that they just wanted to join in for a little bit and pretend
That's
that
rape,
it was
by the way.
police activity.
There was
Prosecuting
that
them is
one
really
ICE
difficult
agent
here.
who
The
just got
individual who
charged
reported the
doing that type of shit.
Said it again. What did he say?
You put the handcuffs on him like you're doing a bondage kinky thing, and then pull out your badge. That's a criminal offense.
Is it actually?
Yeah. So like that's what I was saying. It's
Crazy.
like this ICE guy got arrested for raping women because and like all the women he raped were sex workers.
Of
They're
course.
mainly in like Chinese masseuse.
Yeah.
And
Of course they were.
he exploited them by using his position of power.
Yeah.
So he got charged with like 15 counts of rape.
Good.
But yeah, we covered it the other day. It happened years ago. The trial
okay.
just finished.
Okay. Where's my loyalty at with Osaka? 0. So I'm not gaining or losing loyalty now. Hopefully when the granary is repaired, that'll help it a bit more. And then the university, and I can start building amenities. And I can start growing the population here. Osaka's so fucked city-wise just because it's been constricted by Coupe. Right?
Oh, you're finally on my screen. Yeah, basically I'm going to burn all my military units while raiding his tiles. They'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
What I'm really going for is also a military academy.
I see fucking borders. I literally can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. I'm gonna have to wage war against this city-state or some shit.
So what you should probably do is prioritize cranking out builders, improve every tile that you have to build up the cities that you have instead of using those, because it takes a lot more, because like settlers actually consume one population.
Yeah, I know.
So if you just produce builders, you'll grow your population really fast by improving all those tiles and building farms and stuff.
Yep.
And then you can redirect. Bro, Africa is giving me 25 gold per turn for trade routes. Don't mind if I fucking do. I'm about to get coal.
Well, I've got a governor in every city-state, so that's something.
You can't settle in the desert there?
I literally can't build anything, no.
Because there's hills that you can still put mines on in that desert.
Yeah,
Here, I can drop it. So, it just depends how far your city is. But I'll show you a place that will be good. So if you do right here. So, see where that is? In that desert next to your settler. So it's surrounded by hills, but then the mountains adjacent to it will also boost your campus district.
Because I'm thinking about putting the city just to the top right of that marker.
So
where your
if
where
you
your unit is.
also if you settle on hills, that city will have that boost in production as well.
Because rather than dragging my settler,
But
all
the
way
reason
around,
why I'm saying here is because you can still build mines on all the hill tiles, but this tile you can only build the city center or a district.
I'm not sure if I'm able to build the city there. No, I can't.
Okay.
It won't let me. I can only put it on the one north
Okay.
west of you.
That's still
Where
the
your
best
where
I
your
can
unit
see.
is. Yeah. Because
But
I was
I
going to
can't
settle
see
it on the
much
other
at this
side
point.
of the other side of the thing, because it's on a lake there. But it just takes so long to get there. I might just settle the city and just leave it there, and then take out Iowafa.
The alleged crimes, told news.com.au, because what the police had to do is catch her in the act with the cameras rolling, and they got there just before. So they did actually have to go in undercover. I mean, surely you could just swipe the SD card if you're the cops. But then, you know, if I'm Bonnie Blue's team, I would know that if the cops showed up, you just snap the SD card immediately, if that's your evidence. God, this is insane that this is happening. Imagine, essentially what's going on here is Bonnie Blue has done an undercover sex work mission in a country where it's illegal, and then the authorities have done an undercover
Except the deal I just sent
sex
you.
work infiltration to catch her in the act, potentially joining in so that they could arrest her and deport her for it. I mean, this is spy versus spy, but with lube. Why did the snitch snitch? Why do I care? I'm not a prude and I'm not judging her. But Bonnie Blue's Bali gangbang is not what we want to be reputation-wise. Bali is not Thailand.
You have
Bali
good
is not
mountain
Philippines.
defense
The
from
business
Arabia,
community doesn't
at
want it.
least
The
I can
expat
tell you.
community doesn't want it, and the local
So you
community
probably
can't
will only
even
have to worry about
comprehend
Kobe.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's classic, like, expat logic, isn't it? Yeah, you know, the locals here, they can't even
potentially-
understand the depravity of the West.
potentially
beyond
we
their
could
ken.
gangbang
Pornography is illegal here. Producing
Arabia.
pornography is illegal here.
If you
Working
can
without a proper permit is
build-
illegal here, and we don't want Bonnie Blue's
like
gangbang
talking
from
about
Bali being
not
posted
even
and shared
today,
around the world.
but if you
Bali
can
does
build
not need
logistics
that kind of
to
publicity.
traffic your troops
Sure, we got the publicity
in
anyway, but through
mass.
the community's actions and the
Well,
actions of
what I was
police, we
going to do
showed
was
them
get
that it was
I'm
illegal,
building
and
towards
out she
military
went.
engineer at the
Australians
moment
felt
to build
the same.
my
The government would not
train
let her into
tracks.
the country.
because
What
I've
people
got
do behind
iron.
closed doors is one thing, watching porn, whatever you like, but doing it publicly and then promoting
but
it around the world as Bonnie
it's
Blue's
this
Gangbang does.
city
is
state
I need
too
you
much.
to
my
accept that
Balinese
deal
are
so I can
spiritual
move this
people.
unit.
There is a certain rhythm on the island, and that kind of thing is not for us. We have enough issues
How do I
with
see the
tourists
deal?
here as it is. Well,
Should
it looks
just
like
be-
Bonnie's fate and the fate of the other
might
men
come up
will
next.
come down to whatever
Click
is on
me
their SD cards.
in the deal
because,
sig- maybe
I mean,
it's
what's
next
the
turn, we'll
what's the
see.
definition of
It'll be next
producing it?
turn.
Like, if you're logged into your adult
view
account
deal.
and messaging people, are you producing it, or is that stuff that's been made out of the
There you
country,
go.
so it's fine? Is it just literally the act of filming it in the country? Is it editing stuff that you've made other places in Bali? I don't really know. I guess it'll be an interesting thing that will probably scare the shit out of all adult creators who
really
want to travel to Bali, because yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm gonna
that'd be
put it
like,
on that
you know,
tile
if
there, 'cause
making
then I'll get
YouTube
the
videos
volcano
was
and the
illegal,
hill tiles
would I
as
get
well as
arrested
the lake
for
tiles.
being logged into my YouTube account, posting
But
some
building,
Instagram
I'm gonna have to
stories?
put a
I
fucking
guess I
road
could
through
be.
the
I don't
mountain.
know. This is really going to shake up the OF industry in Bali, which wants absolutely nothing to do with the OF industry at all. So probably a good thing for their country, but a bad thing for Bonnie Blue. Honestly, I reckon she's just going to get deported, and it's going to be great publicity for her. Although I would not be surprised if they give her a massive fine to deter other people from doing this, because deportation is really no punishment at all. If anything, that's exactly what she wants. I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think, and let me know where Bonnie Blue should go next. I'm feeling like a real dictatorship or fascist government. I want to see her give it a go there. I think that'd be a bit of fun. I'm Lewis Spears. I'll talk to you soon.
If I was able to
Like,
take this
subscribe. See you
Kayapoi
later.
city here from
There's a number
Kupe,
out there that's so
that would be
huge
ideal.
that it doesn't sound real. $6 million
Well-
dollars. But it is real. It's roughly the
working
total amount of wealth that's now held.
moving units over there. It's a pretty far distance
This
without
one. Let's
paved
do this one.
roads.
41.
Yes.
Tobruk, Libya. November 1941, Tobruk, Libya. The desert sun
rats
beat
of
down on
Tobruk.
14,000 Australian soldiers trapped inside a coastal fortress. German tanks surrounded them on three sides. The Mediterranean Sea blocked their escape to the north. General Erwin Rommel, the famous Desert Fox, commanded the German forces. He expected an easy victory. His army had crushed every enemy they faced in North Africa. The Australians had nowhere to run. They had limited food.
Oh, you
less
know what's
water,
also good?
and
I
almost
get
no heavy
coastal
weapons.
bonuses for my
By every
units.
rule of
I get
modern
strength
warfare,
on coast.
they should surrender within weeks. But something strange started happening in the darkness. German soldiers in the forward trenches began disappearing. Not during the day, when battles normally happened. At night. In the first week alone, the German 15th Panzer Division lost 142 men. Most vanished between midnight and dawn. The bodies left behind told a disturbing story. Many showed signs of close combat, knife wounds, blunt force trauma. Some German positions were overrun so quietly that soldiers sleeping 50 feet away never woke up. The survivors who made it back to their lines were shaking. Their eyes were wide with fear. They spoke of ghosts rising from the sand, of shadows that moved like animals stalking prey, of terrible yells that came from nowhere. The German commanders did not understand. They had fought the British across France and North Africa. They knew how the enemy thought. British forces followed strict military rules. They defended their positions during the day. They used artillery to soften targets before attacking. They moved in organized formations with clear commands. American military manuals, which German intelligence had studied, emphasized the same tactics. Daylight operations, heavy firepower support, predictable patterns. The Germans had counters for all of it, but these Australians refused to fight the expected way. They came at night when decent soldiers should be resting. They moved without vehicles or heavy guns. They struck hard and fast, then melted back into the darkness before reinforcements arrived. In forward positions along the Australian sector, German casualty rates hit 70%. 7 out of every 10 men posted there became casualties within days. Company commanders begged for transfers. Nobody wanted to face the Australians after dark. The British High Command in Cairo dismissed the reports at first. They viewed the Australians as undisciplined colonials. Men from a faraway
Fair
land
enough.
with no real military tradition. Australia had only existed as a nation for 40 years. Most of its soldiers came from the outback. They were sheep farmers, cattle ranchers, gold miners, and bushmen. They slouched when they stood at attention. They argued with officers. They ignored dress codes. British generals wrote in official reports that these men lacked proper training. They called them a rabble in uniforms. German intelligence files said the same thing. Reports labelled the Australian 9th Division as poorly trained and poorly equipped. German tactical manuals predicted they would break easily under sustained pressure. Rommel himself had written that colonial troops always cracked faster than European soldiers. He had seen it before. He expected to see it again. What the experts on both sides failed to understand was simple. These Australians had spent their whole lives in one of the harshest places on Earth. The Australian outback taught brutal
Damn,
lessons.
Scotland big
Water
mad at
was
me
scarce.
because
Shade
I
was
tried to
rare.
take that
Temperatures
settler.
could kill. The land
Another
stretched forever in every
thing
direction
in the game
with
that just,
nothing but red dirt
you know,
and scrub brush.
fucked me over
Men learned
there.
to track animals across bare rock. They learned to move silently because noise scared away food.
Where did his
They learned to
settler go?
navigate by stars because there were no roads or landmarks. They learned that the cool night hours were the best time to
What,
travel.
does he have like
and
an
hunt.
ability that he
The
can
burning
recall
daytime was for
settlers
resting
or
in whatever
something?
shelter you could find. When these men arrived in North Africa, the desert felt familiar. The heat did not bother them. The dust did not blind them. The emptiness did not frighten them. While British soldiers from London and Manchester struggled with the climate, Australians from Queensland and the Northern Territory felt at home. The no man's land between the trenches reminded them of hunting grounds back home. Just drier, just flatter, just filled with different prey. Their commanders began to notice something remarkable. Australian soldiers hated sitting still in trenches during the day. It made them restless and bored. But at night, they came alive. They volunteered for patrol duty. They asked permission to scout German positions. They wanted to move, to hunt, to do something active. One captain named Paul, a former cattle drover, told his
Fucking
British
Paul.
superior officer a simple truth. He said his men were not good at defending. They were not trained to sit and wait, but they were very, very good at stalking.
Bro,
At moving
Coupe has
unseen,
a fucking
at getting
ship.
close to prey before
Maybe
it
he
knew
has a
danger was
coast
near.
city.
The insight
But he
hit
has like a
Australian
ship in an
commanders like
inland
lightning.
sea here.
They were trying to force
Someone's
bushmen
attacking-
and hunters to fight like
he's
European
attacking,
soldiers. But what if they let these men fight the way they
barbarians.
already knew how? What if the outback skills that made them seem undisciplined were actually the key to survival? The darkness that terrified normal soldiers was just another night in the bush to them. The silent approach they used for kangaroos and wild cattle would work just as well on German sentries. The quick, brutal efficiency of men who had butchered livestock their whole lives translated perfectly to close combat. For the first time since the siege began, the Australian commanders smiled. They had something the Germans could never expect. Something no military academy taught, something that could not be found in any training manual. They had hunters trapped in a cage with soldiers who thought they were safe. General Leslie Morshead stood in the command bunker, studying maps by candlelight. He was a different kind of British officer. He had commanded Australian troops in the First World War. He knew what these men could do when someone trusted them. When other generals sent angry messages demanding the Australians stop their unauthorised night patrols, Morshead tore up the telegrams. When British headquarters ordered him to keep his men in defensive positions, he nodded politely and did nothing. He understood something the others did not. You could not train a dingo to act like a show dog. You let it hunt. Back in late March, when the siege had just begun, the technical planning started. The Australian commanders designed a new type of operation they called silent raids. No tanks, no artillery, no vehicles of any kind. Just small groups of men moving on foot through darkness. The teams would be tiny,
Man,
8 to 12
everyone's
soldiers
mad at
each,
me.
light enough to move fast.
I can't
large
get
enough
open
to cause
borders
real damage.
to
They
cross
would carry
these
rifles
last
but
lands
save
to
bullets for
Coupe.
emergencies. The primary weapons would be knives, bayonets,
gave you open
clubs,
borders.
and entrenching.
No,
tools.
it's not
Anything
about
that
you,
killed
it's about
quietly.
my units
Raids
in
would
the
happen
south.
between 2 and 4 in the morning. Intelligence showed that German
Where
soldiers
most of
were
my
most
forces
tired
are.
during those hours.
I'm
Guards
like
changed
stuck in
shifts around too.
Africa.
Men were
Like,
groggy,
this unit
slow to
here
react,
can't move.
desperate for sleep. The distance was critical.
Bro, give me
the
open
teams had to
borders,
crawl
please.
within
Be
20
well.
to 30 meters of German trenches before attacking.
Thank you.
Not 50
Thank you
meters,
so much.
not 40. 20 to 30. Close enough to rush the position before anyone could raise an alarm. Close enough that darkness hid them completely. Far enough that they could still retreat if discovered too soon. Every man practiced moving across sand without making sound. They learned to freeze when flares went up. They covered their faces with dirt to hide skin that reflected moonlight. They removed anything that jangled or clicked. They wrapped rifle slings with cloth. They left
Wine
behind
money,
canteens
don't
that sloshed
jingle
with
jangle.
water. The
It
first
bulbs.
test came on a moonless night in early April. 12 men volunteered. Most were from Queensland. They had tracked wild pigs through dense bush. They knew how to move like shadows. The target was a German observation post about 400 metres from Australian lines. The team left their trench at 1:30 in the morning. They crawled on their
Doing
bellies
myself
through barbed
more
wire.
culture bomb.
The sand was still warm from the day's heat.
And
Sweat
then
ran down their backs
great
despite the
scientist.
cool night air. Every few minutes, German flares shot into the sky. The sudden light turned night into day for 10 seconds. The Australians pressed flat against the ground. They did not move a muscle. They barely breathed. When darkness returned, they crawled forward again, inch by inch, metre by metre. It took 90 minutes to cross 400 metres. At 3 in the morning, they lay 25 metres from the German trench. They could hear
I have a
voices.
district coming next
German
turn. I
soldiers
better
talking
keep the
quietly.
culture bomb
The sound of
effect
a match
and
striking.
take these
The smell
tiles
of
from
cigarette smoke.
this
One
fucker.
Australian held up 3 fingers, 3 guards visible. He pointed left and right, assigning targets. Then he stood up and ran. All 12
I
men
could have
rose
spent
at
one
once.
more,
Their boots
but I
pounded
looked at
sand.
what everyone else
The
had,
Germans
and I
heard them
think
and
that
turned,
I've spent
but it was too
exactly
late.
the right amount.
Yeah. Right riders. You got your
See, I didn't even need to spend more. Everyone else only spent 1 point, even though they could have spent more. They spent it more here. Ooh. Scotland put 9 into Great Scientist.
Interesting.
What was the effect? Great writers don't get points?
I founded the city. And I got another settler coming next time, and I'm going to settle on the other side of the hills, and I'll have a connecting civilization that way. It's fucking working out.
The Australians were already there. The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. It was brutal and silent except for grunts and the sound of metal on flesh. When it ended, 3 German soldiers lay dead. 9 more were wounded and unable to fight. 4 threw down their weapons and raised their hands. The Australians pulled back with 13 prisoners. Only 3 Australians had been injured, none seriously. The British commanders in Cairo were furious when they heard about the raid. They sent urgent messages to Mooreshead. Stop these unauthorized attacks immediately. Follow proper defensive doctrine. Do not provoke the enemy. Do not waste men on foolish adventures. Mooreshead read each message carefully. Then he filed them away and sent another.
Well now, how dare you kill the Nazis too effectively? Fuck you! You're supposed to follow us, you're a Commonwealth cuck!
team out the next night, and the night after that. He had seen the results. He knew what worked. The rulebook was written by men sitting in comfortable offices hundreds of miles away. He trusted the men standing next to him, covered in sand and blood. The real test came in late April. German intelligence had identified an important position they called Post 410. It sat on high ground overlooking Australian supply routes. Artillery observers there directed fire onto convoys bringing food and ammunition. Dozens of Australian trucks had been destroyed because of that position. British headquarters wanted to attack it with a full infantry assault supported by artillery, the traditional way, the safe way. Mooreshead said no, he would send his hunters instead. 40 Australians moved out on the night of April 22nd. The approach took 3 hours. They moved in complete silence through a minefield. One man led with a knife, probing the sand for mines. The others followed in his exact footsteps. One wrong move would kill them all. The tension was unbearable. Every tiny sound seemed huge. A cough, a stumble, the scrape
Is
of a
the
boot.
goal unit just
But the
an
Germans heard
actual
nothing.
unit, is it?
They sat in their trenches playing cards
Huh?
and drinking coffee.
Is the
They
goal
felt
thing
safe
an
behind
actual
their
unit?
minefield. No one could approach without being
My little
blown
guy
to
there?
pieces.
Yeah.
The Australians
Yeah,
hit
he's,
post
he
410
replaces
at
a chariot.
3:45 in the morning. The
Ah.
first the Germans knew of the attack was when shadows poured over
Gaul
the trench
is
wall.
the
There was no warning shot, no shout of
like
alarm,
the
just sudden violence in the darkness.
civilization
The fighting
most
was
likely
savage.
being written about
Men
when they
grappled
talk
in
about
the narrow
barbarians.
trench. Knives flashed,
okay.
rifle butts swung like
like,
clubs. The Germans were
they-
tough soldiers. They fought hard, but they were stunned, confused,
Like,
half awake.
are the
The
same
Australians had been moving and
ethnic
planning
group
for hours. They
as
were alert,
Gales? 'Cause
focused,
Gales
deadly.
aren't
Within minutes, the position
Anglo-Saxon.
fell.
They're
Over
Germanic.
200 German casualties.
Right?
Okay.
So
The
Gauls
Australians
are
captured
more Germanic, but their main civ is like France region.
Okay.
And they're the ones who Caesar wages that campaign against, and then when he returns from that campaign, he crosses the Rubicon. The Rubicon was dividing Rome and Gaul.
Hey, someone neutralized my governor. What the fuck?
But then also the Gauls end up basically helping destroy the Roman civilization. Like the walls that were built to contain the Gauls.
Yeah.
And also many Gauls integrated into Roman society and were part of the reason they wanted to break away. And they also, like, they kind of integrated into Rome, which caused that downfall of Rome as well.
Yeah, okay.
Honk, 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 honk. Big honker. Bro, one shot him. Fuck off, Spearman.
Do you see this one builder just stuck between my territory?
No.
I tell you what, I'm glad I bought these 3 tiles, because I bought them because I knew that Nan Madol was going to go, and he expands so fucking fast. Took 6 tiles in no time whatsoever. It's just fucked.
Yeah, well, look at the population on that city, too. It's 15 right there. That's going to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, on Osaka. I'm actually gaining loyalty now. I've actually overcome the
Fuck!
loyalty issues.
I didn't even get to raid because I misclicked.
Yeah, I'm gonna settle. See this? So look at my guys. Can you see my guys?
Hang on, give me a second. I'll look. Okay, where do we? I can't really see anything. Here, hang on. What the fuck?
Send delegation. Okay. I've sent you stuff.
You're basically the shape of Australia.
I am? What?
No, the continent we're on. The north goes all the way to the pole. But the south, there's a lot of open ocean down there. But it closes off where the Vikings are. You can't really circumnavigate from the south. It's funny because I know land is here and it's showing a ship.
Okay. So my settler's on the way. Have another city there. I'm gonna get edged out by a fucking Saladin, but that doesn't matter because we're gonna fuck him up later. Okay, I finally, I'm not gonna be in a dark age. That's great. Sure, Mr. Viking Man. Come to the capital. You have been warned. Fuck off, Saladin. I literally killed barbarians that you were struggling with. Shut the fuck up. You fucking moron. Damn, Coupe's military is so strong now. I could probably take out Scotland, honestly. What's my military strength?
365.
Okay, I could probably take out... Coupe's double my military strength. Are you still at war with him?
Yeah. My units haven't even really reached him. I only got one over there.
Hilarious.
Scotland is currently at war with Mansa Musa.
Okay.
Mansa Musa has only discovered...
Coupe and...
Yeah, like he's only discovered Coupe, Scotland, and Shaka. He doesn't even have a link to me yet. A relationship to me yet. We got the coal.
Maps showing every tank position in Rommel's army. Intelligence officers called it the single most valuable information captured during the entire siege. The Australians had done all this with almost no ammunition. British units received 3 times more bullets and shells, but the Australians did not need them. Their way of fighting used what they had plenty of: darkness, silence, fear, and men who knew how to kill up close. The siege had turned into something Rommel never imagined. He was not fighting soldiers defending a fortress. He was being hunted by men who belonged in this desert more than he did. The numbers told a story that shocked military commanders on both sides. Before the Australian raids began, German casualty rates in forward positions averaged about 12% per month. Normal attrition from artillery fire and the occasional skirmish. After the raids became regular operations, those numbers exploded. German soldiers posted to trenches facing Australian lines now suffered casualty rates above 70%. For every 10 men sent to the front, 7 became casualties within weeks. When German units faced British positions instead, their casualties dropped back to normal levels. The difference was impossible to ignore. Facing Australians meant 6 times more death and injury than facing any other Allied force. Rommel had no choice but to change his tactics completely. He ordered all German positions to pull back 2 to 3 kilometres from the Australian lines. His army gave up valuable ground without a major battle. They abandoned observation posts they had held for months. They destroyed equipment rather than leave it behind. The Desert Fox, who had never retreated from anyone, was running away from 14,000 men trapped in a fortress. The irony was not lost on anyone. The besieged were behaving like the attackers. The attackers were retreating like the besieged. Over the 242 days of the siege, the Australian 9th Division launched 96 separate raids. Some were small scouting missions with just a handful of men. Others were major assaults involving hundreds of soldiers. They captured 5,000 German and Italian prisoners. They destroyed 127 vehicles, including tanks, trucks, and armoured cars. They gathered intelligence that shaped Allied strategy across all of North Africa, and they did it while
so
outnumbered, surrounded, and running low on almost everything except courage and creativity.
Coupe is next to
the German High Command issued special orders about fighting Australians. The documents were unusual. They read less like military instructions and more like warnings about dangerous animals. Forward positions were ordered to triple their guard strength at night. Where 1 sentry had been enough before, now 3 stood watch. Flares had to be fired every 15 minutes, whether anything seemed wrong or not. The constant light ate through supply reserves. Soldiers were forbidden from sleeping in forward trenches. They had to rotate back to secondary positions to rest. These orders applied only to sectors facing Australians. British and other Allied sectors followed normal procedures. One captured German lieutenant told interrogators that his men called the Australians devils, not as an insult. As a description, he said you could fight British soldiers and feel like you were in a proper war. There were rules, boundaries, expected behaviours, but the Australians did not fight like that. They appeared from nowhere. They killed quickly and vanished. You never knew when they were coming. You never felt
Big
safe.
chewer.
Even in daylight, knowing they were out there made men jumpy and scared. The contrast with other forces became clear as the war continued. When American troops arrived in North Africa in 1943, they used the same conventional tactics as the British. Daylight assaults, heavy artillery support, organised formations. They were brave and fought hard, but their casualty rates ran 40% higher than Australian units in similar situations. The British 8th Army, commanded by General Montgomery, lost 3 times as many men per engagement as the Australians did. The difference was not courage or equipment, it was approach. The traditional way of fighting cost us lives. The Australian way saved them. Rommel himself wrote about it in his personal diary. The entry from May 1941 has become famous. He wrote that the Australians were not soldiers at all, they were hunters. One cannot predict them, he said. They do not follow doctrine or training manuals. They fight by instinct. Every other enemy I have faced, I could anticipate their moves. I know where they will attack because they follow the same patterns. But these Australians are different. They might strike anywhere, at any time, with any method. It is impossible to prepare for them. The psychological impact went beyond fear. German soldiers began refusing night duty assignments. Officers reported discipline problems. Men who had fought bravely across Europe suddenly claimed illness to avoid the forward trenches. One German medical officer noted that requests for sick leave doubled in units facing Australians. The symptoms were vague: stomach problems,
Hilarious.
headaches, exhaustion. Nothing you
Pussies.
could prove was fake, but the pattern was clear. Soldiers were looking for any excuse to avoid the Australian sector. A vivid picture of what they feared comes from survivor accounts. Midnight in no man's land, a German sentry stands in his trench, scanning the darkness. The night is quiet, except for distant artillery rumbling like thunder. Stars fill the sky. The air smells of dust and old smoke. The sentry sees nothing unusual. No movement. No sound beyond the wind. He begins to relax, his shoulders drop, his grip on his rifle loosens slightly. Then, 15 feet away, shapes rise from the sand itself. Human figures covered in dirt. Their faces are masked with grime. Only their eyes show white. Moonlight catches on bayonet blades. The figures do not shout warnings or demands. They make a sound instead, a deep guttural yell that sounds half animal. It freezes the sentry in place. His mind cannot process what is happening. By the time his training kicks in and he tries to raise his rifle, they are already on top of him. The attack is over in seconds. The position is lost before anyone in the secondary trenches knows there is a fight. This scene repeated itself dozens of times across the siege. The Germans tried everything to counter it. They laid more barbed wire. The Australians crawled through it or cut passages at night. They added searchlights. The Australians waited until the light swept past, then moved in the darkness between sweeps. They sent out their own patrols to catch the Australians before they got close. But German soldiers were not trained for night hunting. They made noise. They bunched together for safety. They used flashlights that destroyed their night vision.
Hilarious.
The Australians heard them coming from hundreds of meters away and either avoided them or ambushed them. The most unexpected consequence was strategic. Rommel needed to dedicate 5,000 additional troops just to maintain his defensive perimeter around Tobruk. 5,000 men who could have been attacking other Allied positions. 5,000 men who could have pushed deeper into Egypt. Instead, they sat in trenches far from the front lines, because getting any closer to the Australians meant certain casualties. 14,000 Australians were tying down 19,000 German and Italian soldiers. The math was backwards. The surrounded force was winning. By the end of the siege, the transformation was complete. The entire German army in North Africa had learned a new respect. No longer did they dismiss colonials as easy targets. No longer did intelligence reports call them poorly trained. Instead, German tactical briefings included specific sections on Australian combat methods. New soldiers arriving from Europe received warnings. If you face Australians, expect night attacks. Stay alert, never relax, trust nothing. The hunters from the outback had rewritten how modern armies thought about warfare. The siege of Tobruk ended in December 1941, when British forces finally broke through German lines. The Australians
It's
had
now,
held for
because nobody will
242
open their
days.
border, it's now
They marched
quicker
out
for
of the
me to
fortress
send my
cheers
units
from
the
Allied
other way
soldiers who had heard
around the
stories of what
world to
happened
go
in
to
the
the
darkness.
Maori.
But the impact of what they did would
They were
echo
almost
far
there.
beyond that North African coast. Military commanders around the world began studying their methods. Questions were asked in officer training schools from London to Washington. How did surrounded soldiers with limited supplies terrorize one of history's greatest armies? What could be learned from men who refused to fight the traditional way? Within months, Allied Special Operations units requested detailed reports on Australian raid tactics. British commandos wanted to know the exact techniques. How close did they get before attacking? What weapons worked best? How did they move silently through no man's land? American Rangers asked for Australian officers to train their troops. The French resistance wanted to learn the night approach methods. Even the Soviet Army, which rarely asked the West for advice, sent observers to interview Australian veterans. The transformation had begun. What started as bush hunters improvising survival tactics became the foundation for modern night warfare doctrine. By 1943, commando training programs across the Allied forces had changed completely. New recruits learned lessons taken directly from Tobruk. Silent approach techniques, the importance of moving within 30 meters before attacking, using darkness as a weapon instead of an obstacle. Close quarters combat training replaced long-range shooting practice for specialized units. Psychological warfare became part of the curriculum. Instructors taught soldiers how to create fear in the enemy, how to attack when and where the enemy felt safest, how to make a larger force doubt itself and pull back from a smaller one. The Australian 9th Division became the most decorated unit in their nation's history. They received more medals and honours than any other Australian military group.
These were the rats of Tobruk. I have a great-grandfather who was in this group.
The nickname they earned stuck with them forever. The Rats of Tobruk. At first, it was an insult. German propaganda radio called them rats trapped in a hole. But the Australians loved it. They wore the name with pride. A rat that is cornered becomes dangerous. A rat survives when bigger animals do not. A rat finds a way through any obstacle. The comparison fit perfectly. They even designed unofficial badges showing a rat with a cocky grin. But when the war ended, most of these men did not want parades or fame. They went home to the outback, back to their cattle stations and sheep farms, back to vast empty lands where the nearest neighbour lived 50 miles away. They rarely talked about what they did. Their families knew they had fought at Tobruk, but the details stayed locked inside. These were men who valued actions over words. Bragging about killing felt wrong to them. They had done what needed doing. Now they wanted to return to normal life. Many died decades later without ever telling their children the full story of those 242 nights in the desert. The lessons they taught changed warfare forever. Military effectiveness, the experts finally understood, did not come from superior resources or long traditions. It came from adapting what you already knew to new situations. The Australians had no formal military culture going back centuries like European armies did. They had no prestigious academies or ancient regimental honours. What they had was practical knowledge gained from surviving in harsh places. They knew how to hunt, how to track, how to move unseen, how to strike hard and escape fast. They applied those skills to war and discovered they worked better than anything taught in
still a great
schools.
prophet.
This realization spread slowly through military thinking.
Surprised I didn't get
By
it.
the 1960s and 70s, asymmetric warfare became a recognized concept. Smaller forces using unconventional tactics against larger, better equipped enemies. Guerrilla fighters in Vietnam used many of the same principles. Night attacks, silent approaches, hitting hard where the enemy felt safe, creating psychological fear that damaged morale. The American military, which had relied on overwhelming firepower and technology, found itself fighting an enemy that refused to play by expected rules. Just like Rommel had discovered 30 years earlier. Today, every Special Forces unit in the world trains using methods pioneered by those Australian bushmen. Navy SEALs practice silent approach techniques. British SAS soldiers learn close quarters combat. Russian Spetsnaz units study psychological warfare. Israeli commandos train for night operations. The specific tactics may have evolved with new technology and weapons,
this exact
but the
reason.
core
Have a look at
ideas
the city
remain
that I
unchanged.
just
Get close
founded.
without being detected.
Next
Strike when the enemy is
next
most
to
vulnerable.
Saladin?
Use
Yeah.
fear as a weapon.
Right,
Disappear
I bought
before reinforcements
7
arrive,
tiles
and
to
make the
block
enemy
them out.
believe you are everywhere and nowhere at once.
And now
Modern
Saladin's
military
going to be
doctrine
like,
calls
how
it
dare you settle
unconventional
next to me?
warfare.
And I'm going to tell him to
There
go
are
fuck
manuals
himself.
and courses and official programs teaching it. But the foundation was built by men who never read a tactics manual. They just knew how to survive and hunt in places that killed weaker men. They brought the brutal efficiency of the Australian outback to the trenches of North Africa and proved that nature teaches lessons no academy can match. The story of why Nazis feared Australian soldiers reveals a deeper truth about conflict and human nature. Terror on the battlefield does not come from having the biggest guns or the most soldiers. It does not come from better training or superior technology. Real terror comes from facing an enemy who refuses to fight by your rules. An enemy who turns your expectations into weaknesses. An enemy who seems to read your mind and knows exactly when you will let your guard down. The Germans were not afraid of Australian weapons. They were afraid of Australian thinking. Rommel commanded the most modern, disciplined, effective army in the world at that time. His soldiers had conquered most of Europe. They had crushed every enemy they faced. They followed precise doctrine developed over centuries of German military tradition. They did everything right according to the rule book. And yet they were terrorized by farmers and miners from the other side of the world, who had no military tradition at all. The rigidity that made the German army powerful in conventional warfare became a fatal weakness when facing an unconventional enemy. This pattern repeats throughout history. Massive armies fall to guerrilla fighters. High-tech forces lose to low-tech insurgents. Empires crumble when facing enemies who refuse to fight the expected way. The lesson is always the same. Strength comes not from following established rules, but from adapting to reality. The Australians at Tobruk understood this instinctively. They looked at their situation and asked a simple question. What do we know how to do? Then they did it. They did not try to become better British soldiers. They became better hunters who happened to be fighting a war. True power belongs to those who can transform weakness into advantage, who can take what others dismiss and turn it into something fearsome. The Nazis dismissed the Australians as undisciplined colonials. That dismissal cost them the siege. They failed to see that discipline taught in classrooms is not the only kind of discipline that matters. There is also the discipline of a man who tracks prey for days through wilderness. The discipline of someone who survives where survival seems impossible. That discipline, forged by nature itself, proved stronger than any military tradition. And in the darkness of Tobruk, 14,000 hunters taught the world's most feared army what real terror feels like.
Because I'm increasing my pressure on it.
Japanese supercar situation is incredible.
Hey.
I'm so glad that this...
Look,
go to some of the videos I put on there, man. Bitch.
I have got great videos.
Okay, but put a few that I put on there.
Okay. Just in the streaming fund?
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit in there.
Candace Owens did her meetup with Erica Kirk. This was hotly anticipated in right-wing circles. I saw that she had something like 300,000 concurrent live viewers at one point on her live stream.
Yep.
It now has 4 million people watching in post.
Which is not her highest lately. I think that we might have seen peak on this, but you know.
I mean, it's concerning that this.
I think she gave up. I'm being honest with you. I'm very disappointed. I'm not watching. I think she quit. I think I'm disgusted a little bit.
Are you gonna rage quit because she quit?
No, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to stop watching. She's changed up on me.
I mean, people seem to be pretty disappointed by the fact that she dropped some of the many theories that she had about Turning Point USA. Let's start here. This is 15, because this is the point that I think is the most salient or the most important in terms of what came out of this, long live stream that she did, which is basically that she expressed regret for some things, but in particular here, she expresses regret for coming for Turning Point USA's finances. And I think this just kind of betrays the truth about this whole right-wing ecosystem, which is basically there's this unspoken rule here. Say whatever you want, be as inflammatory, and sometimes that's beneficial. Say a news outlet will pick up on it, and the Democratic politician will call you racist or misogynistic. That's good for you. Say whatever you want. But and even we can fight amongst one another, and that's good for business. But do not mess with our money. And that's kind of the rule that seems to bind these freaks together. And this is her
focus on being,
I think,
tall.
Climb down.
build up the strength of your cities.
They were sort of
by
most
improving
upset
tiles.
with
You
what
need to catch up by
obviously a bit of a
building
fever
districts.
pitch, when I tweeted that it was a godforsaken company and people should not give money to it. And I have to own that's aggressive. That is actually aggressive in the retrospect. I was very frustrated. And I don't know, I felt like we weren't getting any answers and there were so many lies. And then I was getting attacked for asking all meaningful questions that was within their capacity to answer. And I told you, I definitely, my problem in life is that I can rise to anger very quickly.
Oh, really?
I shared with them that I really felt like I was under attack for telling the truth from the very beginning, like casually when I mentioned the Catholicism thing. Like, what was that about? I was like, look, I say something in a tribute to him. Alex Clark and Andrew Colvett then jump onto a podcast and they're doing that weird interview, which is clearly ads. They were sort of
all right.
So a lot of this was, she still has a lot of grievances with a number of the individuals involved. It was fascinating because I agree with you, Brandon, that this was a pretty big climb down on a large number of issues. It starts off, and she knows that. So she starts off, this is the very beginning of it, where she is compensating for that with a little bit of anti-Semitism.
Oh.
Okay, everybody, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody back at home. Happy Hanukkah to our greatest friends and allies. And, this is a good time to mention that Israel does have a right to defend itself. Tucker Carlson is Adolf Hitler. And TikTok does need to be purchased by the Mossad. It's just how I'm feeling today. I am not different. Maybe you are different.
Can you pause this?
Yeah, I mean, so desperate to pretend oh yeah, you know what? I've changed, so I must have been brainwashed by the Mossad. But actually, I did change, but for money reasons. I don't know.
Right.
God. Just so disappointed. No principles. No principles.
No principle. Well, I mean, her principle of being anti-Semitic is one of her more consistent ones. And the fact that she throws that there, conflating, she's doing the work for Benjamin Netanyahu by continuously conflating Jewish people, saying something like Shabbat Shalom, and then bringing up Mossad and Zionism. Jose, a creator, a video essayist that we've referenced a bunch on this show, did a really good breakdown of some of her conspiracism and how she throws out a lot of hearsay or sources that don't lead anywhere, and it's all and then draws them together to create glues them together to create something that resembles a narrative but doesn't really have any endpoint. And he points out that when you may see clips of her railing against the genocide, but when you see her episodes in full, the anti-Semitism is not subtle. It's not subtle at all. And it actually is really concerning. I mean, not actually. It's very concerning, and it's getting worse. This is a story that's outside of this drama, but Aiden Ross, I guess, is friends with the wide receiver on the Los Angeles Rams, Puka Nacua, and they were doing what they rubbing hands together. I don't want to do it on air, but it's like an anti-Semitic meme, and he said, do the Jewish dance, and that's what he was saying on stream with Puka Nacua. And I think Puka might have done one of the dances in the end zone at some point. I'm not sure if that was the same one, but it's just getting very mainstreamed, and she's a huge part of it with that large viewer base. And this is exactly what we said in the immediate beginning of this genocide is that the more that we conflate Zionism with Judaism, the right will capture this and use it for their advantage. And she is she's a big part of perpetuating hatred towards Jews in this country.
Here is her. This is talking about. I mean, kind of saving face a little bit, saying that she does, and this is where we get to the point where nobody comes out looking from this better. I don't think Candace got out of this meeting what she wanted, and I don't think TPUSA Erica did, because she continues to say stuff like this, which is the main problem that TPUSA is, which is they want this to be open and shut. Yeah. And Candace is not that way. So here's what she says just briefly.
They have not seen anything that you have not seen, is what I want you to know. So with that in mind, I'm sitting here going, why are you signaling? Why do I feel like the public's being gaslit on this? There's been nothing that's convincing. There are so many commentators who have gone out and said to you, it's overwhelming. The evidence is overwhelming. The text messages that don't have a date, that don't even sound real, that's overwhelming. That to me feels really fake and gay. I really do.
That's a Groyper sort of like faking gay
that's
thing.
like
Yeah.
Oh, so even though she's sort of feuding with Fuentes, she's appealing to his audience?
Same audience, yeah. This is all right-wing freaks. But so she says, like, there's no more evidence. So, like, why are you getting on me for making all these accusations that, like, you're in on it? And just one little example here of how this played out. There's this huge section here, and you can put this up, Brian. There's a huge section here that goes on for minutes about these call logs, these Mikey McCoy call logs. Now, Mikey McCoy is a guy who conspiracy theorists zeroed in on is after the shot of Charlie Kirk was shot, it looked as if he put his phone up to his ear, and people were saying he, like, I don't know, was confirming the eagle has landed or something like that. They subsequently said that he put he actually just was covering his ears and had his phone in his hand. But anyway, so Candace said, I need to see these call logs. So here is just a little bit of them talking about these call logs here. And the whole, well, let me just let it run. Got that up.
Person he called was his wife. He called fast. Why don't you go? Go. That's why he walked away. Why don't you go? And just told him, this is what the first thing to do is. Well, he didn't do that. Actually, the first person he called was his wife. He called Elizabeth McCoy. And then he stayed on the phone with his wife for 10 minutes. And during those 10 minutes, he three-wayed Erica 3 minutes after the shot went off. And then he three-ways his father, and then he three-ways a third person who
Stop saying three-way.
So the problem here is that he said he called Candace right away, but the truth, it turns out, according to the call logs Candace saw, was he called his wife, and then they put Erica on the call, which to me kind of doesn't seem that crazy.
No.
And so Candace is like, and to be fair to Candace, she says, I appreciate this information. I wish we had this all the time. This is the only type of thing I was looking for when I was casting aspersions, that guy was like...
It sounds like a white lie where he's like, yeah, I called you right away.
They didn't want to, I think probably didn't want to include his wife in the national story.
Yeah.
So instead of calling Erica right away, he called his wife, and then they added Erica to that call.
Yes.
But then people point in Candace's audience on Instagram point out, well, why do you even trust those call logs in the first place? And here's what Candace said later on Instagram Live.
Why do you trust the call logs? They could have been fabricated. You're absolutely right. They could have been fabricated. But if they fabricated them, to whose benefit? It actually made it seem like everybody lied. So of course they were in fact edited. It wasn't the full call log uninterrupted printed from the website because they wanted to just show me the relevant portions. But that's all we had. I would prefer to sit down with Mikey and
just pause. The same incentive that you said 48 hours ago for the lack of calling Erica Kirk would exist in them fabricating the call logs.
Salahuddin just declared war on me. And
well, I mean,
so
I think
did,
this goes back to what Matt was saying, and I think in reference to the video, she's not a very principled conspiracy theorist. Her main form of conspiratorial content is just sowing doubt in really aimless ways about the traditional narrative, just asking questions, just repeating what the story is, but with a weird tone of voice, right? To make it seem like it's all much more suspicious than it actually is. But she has no real endpoint in mind. She has no real overarching narrative in mind. This is just to keep people addicted from minute to minute. And I think a lot of people are just kind of half listening when they listen to Candace Owens' show. No one would admit it because they'll pretend oh no, I listened to the whole thing. She's always doing this. They're all just half listening. And so from moment to moment, she's jumping from piece to piece, which might keep you entertained. But overall, she doesn't have any real endpoint in mind. She doesn't have a grand villain in mind, and she's not really even investigating. Every episode, she puts a new piece on the board that doesn't connect to any other piece.
Right. She is grifting off his death in a way that contradicts the way that others are grifting off his death, where they want this to be about TPUSA, and the donors wanted to still be Zionists. The donors wanted to still maintain the more traditional Republican line because that's in part what Kirk represented to them.
That's why it's valuable to them.
He was influence over young people that feuded with Fuentes, feuded with the anti-Semitic right wing and more legitimately Nazi side of the party, and so they're trying to control it, and they want to control it for the Republican
cool.
political project.
Anarchy.
Candace Owens just
Great.
cares, and she literally said, "I don't care about the midterms."
I'm
like,
sick of this game.
she cares about making money. And she's doing a really good job of that.
compared
given
to
the
my
account
last
that I just
one.
mentioned.
This
But it
is
seems
dog
like
shit.
the
Can
audience
we-
is not
can we
thrilled here,
quit?
right? Matt?
These are the top comments of
You
75
wanna start again?
of them.
I literally cannot do
4
anything else.
million
I'll start
views.
again.
Transparency.
I already made enough
transparency
mistakes.
Is never found
I'm
in private
literally
meetings. Hey, that's at
that
the start of the majority
fucked.
report. In the boardrooms of the elite. That's where deals are made. Next person. I think I just realized we the people will never be allowed to know no.
Like I
They're
can't,
using her
I can't
little
build anything in my
phrases
cities. I
against
constantly
her.
have
My
to
advice
fucking
is to put the
retake
phones down and go
Osaka.
outside. Eric,
Coupe
great job
is
there.
too
Candace,
much pressure
weren't you,
on my entire
the one
civilization.
Going after
It's
Erica
fucked.
for publicly grieving.
I literally
Charlie,
could
then
not have
deciding to
gotten a
answer
worse
questions publicly.
position.
Now you have private meetings after doing public investigations. It's a big club and we are in it. 4.5
Yeah,
hours
I
of
mean-
conversation. Yet people are still confused. This is amazing.
Yeah, she's losing them. But to be fair, I think Candace has positioned herself well because of the kinds of like lack of real, I don't know, like coherency that her conspiracy theories have to pivot back and forth from one position to another. So if they push back enough and she starts getting enough pushback, she's just going to go back. She's going to go after TPUSA again. Like I think that, you know, she's left herself enough room to like just reignite tensions whenever it benefits her.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, people are. This is actually like an
Okay.
immune system response we're seeing by people's
Who are you?
brains. It was at this moment I realized that I need to get
Japan?
off the
Japan.
internet. If I'm going to be destroyed
So,
by the
do
system,
you
let
wanna
it be in
continue
person,
being
not do the
Japan?
corrosion of my mind and spirit.
Where you get coastal tile bonuses.
Yeah, I'm happy to go with Japan again. I wasn't opposed to the city, like the Civ, but it was
Just make sure
awful placement.
Make sure you start expanding down the coast as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Don't take anything inland.
Mhm.
And just try to control basically the entire coast if you can.
Because of the totally avoidable influence of social media.
Oh man.
That's a great point. That's a great point. He's right. You know,
It
really
would
insightful.
probably be beneficial if the Candace fans logged off, but I do get sad reading something like that. People are lost.
What is it? The Lives of Quiet Desperation.
Also, it's important to realize that she's not going to stop doing Charlie Kirk conspiracy theorists. Her next episode after this is still about conspiracy theorists. About conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's death. It's just she's like, not going after TPUSA in them right now. Now it's back to like the FBI and like ballistics and NCIS style stuff. So it's
Right.
It's more of a pivot.
Sounds like the JFK conspiracy, Matt. Ballistics instead
Oh
of...
yeah, exactly. You get into this sort of scientific stuff instead of the actual connections.
Although that one's a real conspiracy as opposed to whatever's going on here.
Yeah. But people can be misled in either direction by the just thinking like this is what a bullet does because
Right.
I know science.
Yeah.
Like people are saying like this a 30-06 would do this. It's like, well, you could read a bunch of criminal cases where it got stuck in the body. So what now?
Right.
Turns out that your like assessment of physics, maybe this is why people love this is actually going back to Eric Weinstein.
It's almost like armchair analysts don't know what the fuck they're talking about when they're talking about ballistics, and it's almost like ballistics experts should be the ones determining what happened. Oh, so your 6 goes right to a deer. Yeah, no shit. Doesn't mean shit. Ballistics change depending on the medium that it's going through. A neck is rather dense. A neck, I'm pretty sure it went through. I don't think it got stuck. Did it?
I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so, but who knows? Maybe it did. Divine Wind. Land tiles adjacent to coast naval units receive bonus on shallow water tiles.
Hang on, let me just so you have bonuses to naval units.
Mm. What are you setting up?
I'm just changing it so it's gonna have more water for you. I'm gonna put Cleopatra in and then probably Poundmaker too.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're gonna do a lot of trading to build trade routes, which means that they'll build a lot of infrastructure.
Keep the difficulty up, but yeah. Are you actually picking the leaders?
Yes. Any requests?
No, not necessarily.
Wish I could tell you how it makes me feel as someone who was born and raised in authoritarian China and did everything
Told you I
could
had good ones.
to escape that. And I came here and I found him.
So, is there a country that's done socialism the way that you like?
I would say China is probably the closest to an example that we should follow.
As someone who was born and raised in China, this isn't the first time I've heard someone in the West talking up the Chinese government. It's usually not something worth making a video about, but this time it's different. This time, Hassan Piker, the American political commentator, said something different. What he said was sophisticated, nuanced, extremely deceiving Chinese propaganda.
I think that uplifting 800 million people out of extreme poverty is an incredibly impressive feat.
You know what's funny? He actually didn't lie there. He didn't lie there. The claim is getting them out of extreme poverty. Extreme poverty being under $1 per day. They are now, I think, $1. I think it might be just above the international poverty line, which is why they voluntarily remove themselves from the developing nation status. And I will praise China for doing that. Because that's one thing that I've been saying forever, is China is not a developing fucking nation. It has a spaceport.
From the first stirrings
it has
of life
space programs.
Other developing nations have spaceports, though.
No, I know, but it's like
we were just watching one African country launching its own satellites.
And then, like additionally to the space program, right? They have satellites and a space station in space, right? Those other developing nations have that.
Where the sons of your armies fail,
to claim that China is a developing nation,
to reclaim your land,
when they claim that they have so much wealth, is insane. Okay, you have so much wealth, redistribute it, you commie fucks.
Fight, great warrior king.
Yeah, actually, do something. Instead, they hoard it in their personal coffers, and the party gets it all. And then dickheads like Hassan here go and dick ride the party, who literally treats the Chinese people like fucking livestock. Can we stop?
Being able to develop this country.
All right, what coast do you think you're on?
World War II, infighting, and Civil War, and to become a competitive force that is slated to overtake
You
America
have priority
as
to settle on a
in
coast, you're
multipolar
Japan.
world is very impressive, and I think we should learn from that in the United States of America. We should look to that and learn some lessons from that, and that's the reason why I always try to use China as an alternative, as an example.
I can't tell you how
and always try to settle on
really
hills,
is
in
to
my
hear
opinion.
someone who looks like him repeats what my Chinese teacher said when I was 12. It felt so surreal.
Sometimes you
that
can't.
I thought I was back in China.
Like,
as
you
a
just need to
Chinese
get your
student
feet
in
up, and it's not
Chinese
worth the
classes.
I actually got a
Except
really
Hassan
good sales spot.
Piker was not born in China. He was not subject
Yeah,
to
I
Chinese
made sure that
education.
it would give
He
you a
was
better
actually born
bias
in
with the map
US,
selection
and he
because
got
of
a U.S. education. I've actually never heard of Hassan Piker before his China.
like the only person who's going to have coastal
He has
priority
recently
as
done
beside
several
from you
quite
is
high-profile
Norway.
interviews where he talks
No,
about
because Coupe
how
spawns
he
in the ocean.
admires China and how we
Always.
should all learn from their way of governing. After going to a trip to China, which many said was paid by the
I
Chinese
found
Communist
camels.
Party in the first place, I'm going to debunk some of his most deceiving and sophisticated propaganda
Huh,
on
I already
China
got,
that he knowingly
a research
or
boost for
unknowingly
sailing.
spread to the public. But first of all, who is Hassan Piker? He's branded himself as this progressive leftist pundit.
He
And
sure
his
has.
audience, which is huge, he has millions of followers on Twitch, on YouTube. His audience is
That's on
mainly
YouTube.
Gen Z or millennial man. He also appeared alongside politicians, people like AOC.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Bernie Sanders and AOC in the building.
And interestingly, at the time I'm filming this video, he was invited to the UBC, the University of British Columbia, as a guest lecturer. For those of you who are not familiar with Canadian universities, UBC is one of the most prestigious universities in the country, especially when it comes to international studies.
So what coast do you think you're on?
He is
I don't know, I'm on a
very
little nub.
successful, which is why
Looks
I think
north.
his opinions on China is worth exploring.
When you are getting the poorest of the dispossessed masses out of a situation where they were servile, the landed gentry, or they were peasants from an agrarian society, or they were dominated by their landlords, but then ultimately they were able to come into modernity and become like a powerhouse, an industrial powerhouse that is competitive with the largest superpower on the planet. I would say if...
Hey, Hassan, that was capitalism.
That's the point of good governance. China is probably the closest. There are still plenty of failures within the Chinese system as well, plenty of issues within the Chinese system as well. But that's probably the closest, I would say, to an example that we should follow. And
So, what you're saying is that we should become single party, undemocratic dictatorships with police surveillance states that black bag people.
Next turn.
And send them off to camps.
Press the button and yap.
With forced assimilatory policies right out of Mussolini's playbook. Buddy, you're already living that. You got your wish. Did you vote for Trump?
No.
Not talking to you.
I know, he didn't vote for Trump though.
I know he didn't, which is why it's kind of funny that he's arguing in favor of
Got a lot of
Trumpism.
rivers.
Because not sure if you've encountered any Chinese nationalists, but they act exactly the same as MAGA. Exactly the same. It's no different. Bison. Neat. Is it worth using my units to go and get the extra XP from the tribal villages and shit, or is it just take them with the scouts?
Yeah, I mean, you should have all your units out and exploring, and until you find a barbarian camp, then you should focus on using slingers to get rid of it as quickly as possible. But the barbarians have to scout you with a scout before they can start sending units to your city. So if you kill that scout, you can buy yourself more time.
Yeah.
lessons that we should learn from. China is not a...
I honestly can't stand this argument because it's just simply misinformation and it's carefully packaged. And I want you to know that this type of narrative is extremely
That's what he does.
effective because it is a good story. Who doesn't love a story of triumph? Who doesn't love a story that tells you no matter how poor you are, there is this communist party that can give you what you've always wanted, and you don't have to be poor anymore. Who doesn't love that? Except it's not true. Communism is not why China got rich. Capitalism is. The economic boom only started after the CCP loosened control and allowed market reforms, aka capitalism. That's what got us out of that shithole that we were desperate to get out of. I'm so riled up whenever someone else like him, who doesn't know anything about our history, is basically spreading misinformation with a confident face. And here's an important detail that a lot of people miss, even for seasoned China watchers. The policy ushered by the Chinese Communist Party, the open and reform policy, it was started by local farmers and villagers. Local officials and villagers experimented with semi-capitalist practices because people were starving. Why were we starving? Because of the Chinese Communist Party and their communist policies.
For evils, baby. Kill those sparrows.
Villagers experimented
Fuck
with
them
this
birds.
new policy. They were doing that illegally. And the central government turned a blind eye at first. When they actually saw the results, they said, okay, we'll go along with it. So it's actually the Chinese people who defied communism that saved the country, not the Chinese Communist Party. And if you want to see your children and your parents starve to death, by all means, try communism.
I wouldn't say that China is a communist, and neither would you, but it's run by a communist party. And so far, they have seen a pretty successful, robust level of growth and development overall. They have analyzed the failures of previous communist and socialist formations, and they have responded to it in their own way.
This sounds nuanced and even sounds smart, but again, it is wrong. Hassan is trying to justify the legality of an authoritarian regime. And by the way, this is an argument that's used by the Chinese Communist Party repeatedly to its own people and to the rest of the world. We got China rich, so we don't need a voting process. We don't need democracy. We got you rich. You got to do what I tell you to do. Whenever I hear that argument, I think people miss the difference between the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people. The Chinese Communist Party actually put us into poverty and put the Chinese people through so many atrocities that you just can't even imagine.
Ah, religious settlements!
Stepped back and
suck my dick!
Their control. We thrived. It's like they robbed you of, say, $1,000, and then they gave you $10 back, and then they tell you, you got rich, you were poor, you didn't have any money, and now you have $10 back. Look at us, look at how great we are. Isn't that just insane? And in that process,
I'm gonna settle on this lead right here,
back,
I reckon.
by the way, it is at the expense of the Chinese people's well-being, where we're not being paid well. There's corruption. There's brutal oppression of people who want democracy in China. The wealth, the prosperity, it is not because they were in power. It is because they partially retreated themselves. And look at what they're doing now. The second they feel threatened by the Chinese people's wealth, what do? They rein in. Hassan Piker's whole brand is built on shitting on the American government, shitting on democracy, shitting on capitalism, when everything he has is because of them. He is able to build a brand that is highly critical of his government because he has the luxury of doing that, because he has the freedom to do that.
That's why we want to use our luxuries
he will not
to let
have that
people
in
who don't have the
Venezuela.
luxury
And
talk
don't
shit
get me
about
wrong,
their
I think
governments.
any government deserves a little bit of self-criticism. That's one of the reasons I went to journalism school. But to go so far as to say that everything
I'm
China
on a little
does is
nub
good
in
and
the
everything
north
that
for sure.
the U.S. does is wrong.
Oh, I found a
is
city-state,
just
I think.
absurd. I hate to break it to you, Hassan Piker.
Sale?
Communism
That's
is
Australia.
not going to save you. Communism is not going to save your followers. And for people like him, their problem is that they think they're the good guy. They fall for this narrative because they want to be the good guy. And communism sounds like that, except it's everything but. It is not about being the good guy. And I'm so worried about the younger generation here in North America. They're not going to remember what happened in Tiananmen Square. It happened such a long time ago that the younger generation, they don't understand. They grew up watching people like Hassan Piker. They grew up watching TikTok. And who owns TikTok? China does. And their parents,
Brain rot.
people in the West, they have never experienced far left. Many of them refuse to believe such thing exists. They are worried about the far right, and they're right. We should worry about extremism on both sides. But they do not understand what it means to have a far left government when people like us who are authoritarian regimes survivors, when we speak up, we get ignored.
As Vietnamese refugees, we have endured suffering under the communist regime, and we believe that.
Okay, you dude. I mean, seriously, you old lady. Shut you stupid, idiotic old lady. Who is
Lol.
You, America or Ho Chi Minh? Suck my old lady. God, dude. Go this refugee, okay? Seriously.
Wow, very based, Hassan.
Jesus Christ, bro.
He's really going off. Holy shit.
What a monster.
I wish I could tell you how it makes me feel as someone who was born and raised in authoritarian China and did everything I could to escape that. And I came here and I found him. I found Hassan Piker, someone with a large number of followers who obviously has a powerful voice, and he's repeating
I don't give a fuck.
the Chinese Communist Party's
Go away, stupid
propaganda
Roman cunt.
so well. And the reason I wanted to start this channel is I've had enough of this.
I've had it.
had enough of propaganda.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Well, today was the day, as you may know, December 19th, that, of course, the deadline mandated by law for Donald Trump's Department of Justice to release the Epstein files. All of them. Basically unredacted. And we got a release with an enormous asterisk, which is that they are very clearly violating that law. Which is not surprising. It is a law that they fought at every single opportunity. From shutting the entire House of Representatives down for months to not swearing in a duly elected member so she couldn't sign the discharge petition, to at the last minute browbeating their own allies like Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who was brought into the Situation Room. And ultimately none of that worked. The law passed both houses. Donald Trump was forced into signing it clearly against his will. And so today, on the day of the deadline, they have released some, and only some of the documents that they were required by that law to release. Thousands of documents, including scores of photographs of Epstein's properties, including massage rooms, along with photos of young women and vacation locales, and notably former President Bill Clinton. Now, we should note here, these are all just photos. We don't know the context in which any of them are taken. President Clinton appears in several photos alongside Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and redacted persons. In one image, Clinton appears with a redacted woman sitting on his lap. You just saw that. In another, he is with a redacted person in a jacuzzi. In response, President Clinton spoke.
See, now we're saying redacted. I'm like, whoa, they're dead?
Hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday to protect Bill Clinton. This is about shielding themselves from what comes next, or from what they'll try and hide forever. It certainly does appear that photos of many other men have been blacked out. There are a ton of redactions, entire documents like the one you see here, completely blacked out. And not just documents. Faces are blacked out, but not always consistently.
Also, cities,
DOJ said they blacked out the faces
like
of
as you
victims,
go down the coast,
everyone,
you want to also get your second layer so your cities form triangles. You see mine right here?
Identities are obscured. And get this.
How mine are.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So now I'm putting one here, so there'll be a triangle. You can build all your districts together, or you can build all your farms together in the center to get a super farm. Because if you build 3 farms adjacent, you'll eventually get a tech that will upgrade 3 farms adjacent into super farms.
Okay.
The law at issue, the one that has brought us to this point, is clear. The Department of Justice cannot redact information solely because its release might harm an individual's reputation. And if they did redact politically exposed individuals, why did they release more than a dozen photos and documents relating to Bill Clinton? I think we know, right? We're not idiots. In fact, he seems to appear more than any other public figure, including in this social media post by a White House spokeswoman suggesting the media investigate Clinton's well-documented encounters with Epstein. Now, Donald Trump's relationship with Epstein is well documented. We have all seen the pictures of the two men together. We all remember the quote that he gave the reporter who wrote a profile of Epstein about how much he loves women and how they're on the younger side. And we all know about the birthday card. Donald Trump denies writing it and sued about it, but the one where he talks about them having secrets and age being nothing but a number. Why does Donald Trump hardly appear in this trove of documents, except in one photo we've all seen in a desk of Epstein's? Do you think that's an accident when it was his Justice Department who was going through them? I mean, we don't know. We do know this isn't all the Epstein files. In fact, today the DOJ admitted that they are, again, flatly violating the law, violating tonight's deadline, releasing files willy-nilly in the coming weeks.
Oh my God, there's
But
so
is
many
it willy-nilly?
barbos.
How did they select these files for today's release? Remember, earlier this year, the DOJ ordered an internal review that had FBI workers working around the clock, flagging Donald Trump's name, telling Donald Trump he's in the files, according to the Wall Street Journal, and then deciding back in July, after they had worked around the clock, after they had flagged Donald
I can
Trump in the
afford
files,
units.
after they had told Donald Trump he's in the files, issuing a memo saying, we're not going to release any of them, case closed.
You just need it to be my
That's
turn
the
again.
same DOJ. And those same very people who have now selectively dribbled out redacted files in what appears to be an obvious attempt to protect Donald Trump and cast aspersions on his political efforts. Harry Litman served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General with the Department of Justice. Lisa Rubin is MS Now senior legal reporter, and they join me now. One thing I want to say here is the law also requires the files to be searchable. That's in the law, obvious for obvious reasons. I should just start by saying, for months today, the search function has either been entirely not functional or barely functional.
I think that's a good way of putting it. I will also
Green
say,
rice.
in fairness, that
Just
there is
spawned
a
in my
big
throat out of
caveat,
nowhere.
almost in
Nice.
bold letters on the Department of Justice's website, saying that there may be technical problems with the searchability function. Nonetheless, you're absolutely right that the plain text of the Epstein Files Transparency Act says the files have to be publicly accessible and searchable for the same reasons that we're all discussing, because there are certain things that people want to know, right? And you want to be able to know them without looking through each and every image. That's also probably for the protection of the survivors themselves, who shouldn't have to look through each and every image or document in order to see the things they're looking for, including notes of interviews, for example, that they may have given to the FBI or the Department of Justice.
So on the redactions, I mean, the law is very clear about this reputational harm. I think it's very clear that you don't want the names of victims in there, or their faces, obviously, and certainly you don't want anything like images of them in compromised positions, right? But what are the other legal grounds that one would redact here, Harry?
Well, first, the law is the law. It's not grand jury anymore.
Right,
So
it's the law. It's not a
It's
recommendation.
the Epstein transparency.
What's going on over there?
So the victims' names,
I'm just going through my
confidentiality,
little side tabs here.
not reputational harm. And I just want to go to your upfront point about this could not be willy-nilly. It must be a cover-up. Just my 12-year-old could do just the stats. You have one or two pictures or searches of Trump, over 100 of Clinton. So it's, in theory, everything they say is to try to excuse the violation of law, no doubt about it, but it makes it seem like, oh, we did our best, etc. What they plainly did was try to control the narrative. I'm reminded a little bit of the Mueller report. They think the fronting of stuff involving Clinton and other people may obscure the stuff about Trump. But it's very, very far from what they're required to do. And on the redactions in particular, Chris, you must explain why. And in
writing, of course.
Yeah, and in a typical court process, that really is telling. You go through it, a court will determine. Here, is there the wherewithal to actually push back? Probably not.
Hey, you know what you should do? See this last kick chat? You should go to his channel, see if he's live, then repeat the same fucking message in his account. Bad stream, watch me, and then give our link. Because that would be funny. Yeah, fuck it. Give me that production, baby. Oh, you got spearmen. These fucking barbarian cunts.
Yeah, they'll almost always have one spearman as their main defender for their base. I got hit by 2 other barbarian scouts that turn. They're about to start spawning to fuck my shit.
Ooh, mushrooms. Alright. Kill a unit with a slinger. Alright, we'll do astrology first then. Because I'm about to kill a unit with a slinger.
That's another thing. It's like you'll know what all the bonuses are so you can plan ahead eventually.
Yeah.
When you really know the bonuses well, it's what makes people like Hammurabi like destructive. Because you get a technology anytime you complete one of the bonuses.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do the granary. We'll give him some food.
Food is good.
Food is good. And science. We'll boost food and science in my cities, I think.
Builders are generally better than granaries.
Builders?
Yes. They'll be able to build more farms than a granary can produce.
No, I know.
I'm building a granary right because I founded a city on desert. I'm building a granary there because I know it's going to have lower food.
Yeah.
And won't have tiles to improve.
Builder and a settler. I'll make a 3rd city.
Fire missiles. Hit play. On
Already
the
have.
redactions.
So one really difficult thing to ascertain here is just like what scope are we dealing with? Are we looking at? I saw Robert Garcia, of course, the House Oversight Committee, saying
Tech
his
boost
estimate
wheel.
was
Tech
10%
boost
of the
astrology.
files. I mean, I don't know what. It's very hard.
They
for us
fucking
to get
cleared the
denominator here,
outpost,
but
the
what is your
dirty
sense
cunts.
of what the scope of
Who
what
did?
we
Fucking
have
city state.
compared to what
Yeah, they'll do that.
I needed that for a fucking
I mean, there's
boost.
tons of things that I look for that aren't there. So, for
And they
example,
killed the
I was looking
fucking
for the
unit. Are you
FBI
kidding?
302s, which is Harry knows well, are the memorialization of interviews with witnesses or people who may themselves have been participants in crimes, but nonetheless would be useful as cooperators to the Department of Justice. I saw very, very few of those things. I saw some handwritten notes of interviews with witnesses.
Oh, and they're going to
but
kill
I
this
didn't
fucking
see any
unit
of
too,
those
so I'm not
302s.
even going to
In
get my
particular,
boost
I
for
didn't see
archery.
302s
Get
where
fucked.
survivors would have mentioned other adults who may have been
Looks like
may have understood that
there's a
Jeffrey
city
Epstein
state
was
that's not going to be
trafficking or
around
abusing
till that
them.
end game,
That was
huh?
something that Thomas Massey said
Yep.
that he fully expected to see. We don't see anything.
Yep, and they
approximating
killed
that.
it.
And to Harry's point about
You're gonna die,
strategic
clown.
redactions,
Why are
there's
you
one
in my
document that I
territory, you
looked at
fuck?
today, which is a message pad, and it shows that Sandy Berger, for example, who was Clinton's
Berger?
national security advisor, called for Epstein. Also shows the name of a man named John Brockman, who used to host these billionaire conferences at which Jeffrey Epstein attended dinners. That may have been the context, for example, in which he attended a dinner alongside David Brooks of the New York Times,
That appears
who has
to be the
since
case.
who has since denied that he had any other contact with Epstein whatsoever. But in that same document, there is a redaction of another man's
I'm
name.
actually
Why
pissed.
is it kosher for Sandy Berger's name to be out there and John Brockman's name to be out there, but what is clearly a man's name because it refers to a him. You may call him back at X time, for example, but that person's name is redacted. Is that for national security reasons? Is that because there's an ongoing investigation that would be jeopardized? I don't know, and I won't speculate, but I would like to know the reason why it's okay to name some and not others. And similarly with faces, there are some men whose faces we clearly see. They include Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger and Bill Clinton. And then there are other places where there are men we can't see and we know that they are men. Why?
I also feel the need, just before I go back to you, Harry, with all of this, right? Just to say, like, for instance, in the case of Bill Clinton, that he denies any wrongdoing having to do with it. He also denies having known anything about Epstein. And also, when we're talking about these sort of time contexts, I do think it's important. You know, people that are meeting with Jeffrey Epstein in 2011, 2012, 2013, at that point, he had already pleaded guilty to the crime he had. There had been stories about it. Maybe they knew and maybe they didn't, but it was entered into public evidence. You know, in 1995, 1997, it's just very unclear if anyone knows what's happening, right? So we should just put that forward just to, like, you end up in the situation where there's a certain guilt by association that's inevitable.
Yes.
But no one knows, like, timestamps or context
and
or
to
any
your
of
point,
this. So
like, that's why I think the emails with Larry
Sounds
Summers
like
were
somebody's
everything
scared
else.
he's going to
Exactly,
show up in
they
those
were.
files.
Because well into 2019, they are having those conversations when everybody understands who Jeffrey Epstein was alleged to have been.
Alleged to have been.
China announced that its trade surplus had reached over $1 trillion in the first 11 months of this year. This statistic was cheered by China bulls as yet further proof of China's industrial dominance and the impotence of Trump's tariffs, but has since provoked some real anxiety amongst China's trade partners. Emmanuel Macron, for instance, penned a piece in the Financial Times earlier this week, arguing that China must address its internal imbalances, or the EU would be forced to adopt more protectionist measures, while Mexico has since announced tariffs of up to 50% on a whole range of Chinese goods, adding to the long list of countries that have now imposed restrictions on Chinese exports, which include not just Western countries like the US and Canada, but also developing countries like Indonesia, Turkey and Brazil. So, in this video, we thought we'd explain why China's massive surplus is proving controversial with its trading partners, and how it might be fixed. Who is the most influential person in the world? Well, last year, the TLDR audience ranked Donald Trump as number 1, with these people all landing in the top 10. But do you agree? Click the link in the description to cast your vote for our 2026 ranking. Now, to understand why China's surplus has irritated its trading partners, we need to do a bit of macroeconomics 101. The key
4
thing to understand
settlements
here
by
is that
turn 50.
Sure.
You should make that as a goal for yourself.
Okay. Good, get the fuck out of my territory, cunt.
The city-state?
Yeah.
Hit play.
Sorry.
Trade imbalances shouldn't really happen, at least according to orthodox economics. After all, when you export loads of stuff, this creates demand for your currency, which should thus appreciate and allow you to afford more imports. This is not to say that we shouldn't expect bilateral trade imbalances, i.e. imbalances between countries and individual trading partners. You can very easily imagine a world where country A runs a surplus with country B, which runs a surplus with country C, which runs a surplus with country A. But each country's overall trade account should be balanced. In the context of this hypothetical, country A's surplus with country B should roughly equal its deficit with country C. In China's case, for instance, when China exports lots of stuff, you'd expect Chinese households to then use this hard-earned foreign currency to import stuff from the rest of the world. Now, at this point, the China bulls in our audience might retort, what if China just makes the best stuff, and Chinese households just don't want to import foreign-made alternatives? Well, fine,
Wow.
but if China isn't importing, but is continuing to export, Orthodox economics would predict this would just continually push up the value of the yuan until foreign imports eventually become competitive, and the trade account would then balance. This speaks to a commonplace confusion about trade balances, apparently shared by politicians and journalists alike, that trade surpluses reflect industrial strength and trade deficits reflect industrial weakness. Even if it's true that Chinese industry is great and the world thus wants lots of Chinese exports, in a functioning economic system, this should just mean that China can afford a lot of imports. In other words, these exports should be used to pay for imports that make Chinese households better off, like
Yeah, we
nice
got it.
French food or nice Italian handbags.
You've said it a
Otherwise,
few
you're just
times now,
exporting
pal.
for the sake of it. Rather, trade surpluses usually suggest that a country isn't able to get its hands on as many imports as it should be able to. And this is the main reason that China's trade partners are getting a bit irritated. It's not just that Chinese manufacturing exports are hyper-competitive, although this is obviously causing some anxiety in places like the German car industry. Rather, it's that China apparently doesn't want anything from the rest of the world. It would be fine if the rest of the world bought lots of Chinese stuff, and China bought an equivalent amount from the rest of the world, as orthodox economics would predict. This concern has become particularly acute for three reasons. First, and most obviously, the fact that China's surpluses are bigger than ever. While China's surpluses haven't changed that much as a percentage of GDP, and are actually smaller than those of other chronic surplus countries like Japan and Germany, the growth in the size of the Chinese economy overall has given way to record-breaking surpluses. This problem has become particularly acute in the past 5 years or so. Since the pandemic, China's import volumes have essentially remained flat, while its exports have surged. Second, China has moved up the value chain. Before, other countries were less fussed about Chinese surpluses, because they knew there were still gaps in the value chain where they could sell their stuff to China, even if China didn't import as much as it exports. Now, however, China produces everything from cheap components up to high-end manufacturing goods like electric vehicles. This has provoked some anxiety amongst China's trading partners, who can no longer really see what they might export to China. Third, and finally, these surpluses look more and more like a deliberate policy choice. Since at least 2015, when Xi revealed his Made in China policy, the CCP have been explicitly pursuing a policy of
big
economic
zoomer.
self-sufficiency, which
Big
involves
wheel boy.
reducing their reliance
Today,
on foreign
yeah.
imports. The CCP has also continued to undervalue China's currency, the yuan, which effectively prevents Chinese households from importing as much stuff as they should be able to, and Xi has explicitly resisted calls from the IMF and elsewhere to boost domestic demand within China, by doing stuff like giving cash to Chinese households or improving China's safety net, which would give households more confidence to spend. This is despite the fact that boosting domestic demand would help address China's deflationary crisis, because more spending means higher prices. For context, inflation in China has
Golden
been
age.
hovering around zero for most of the past year, sparking fears that
Yeah.
China could drop into a Japan-style deflationary crisis. Now, of course, it's important not to overstate all this. While lots of China's trade partners, especially in Europe, are indeed anxious about China's surpluses, others, especially poorer trading partners in the global south, who never really expected to export that much to China in the first place, don't really care about trade balances, as long as they get cheap, high-quality Chinese stuff. Pakistan is a great example. Super cheap Chinese solar panels have enabled a transformative electricity revolution in a country that has suffered from recurrent energy crises. Nonetheless, global anxieties about China's trade practices only seem to be growing, so it would probably be a good idea to address them sooner rather than later. So, what happens next? Well, interestingly, in the past couple of weeks, we've seen a change in tone, and the CCP are apparently showing some interest in boosting domestic demand. Since October, Chinese policymakers have been talking about investing in the Chinese people, which has been widely interpreted as a euphemism for boosting domestic demand. This will come as a welcome relief to many of China's trade partners, especially in Europe, but this won't be straightforward, and it's worth noting that the CCP's previous efforts to boost domestic demand have generally fallen short.
Cool. So the whole stream died, huh? Neat. That's fucking great. That's awesome. You're alright, the game is waiting on me. Ending?